Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 12th, 2023 Historic Preservation Meeting. Happy New Year to everybody, my colleagues, and everyone in the audience. This is a regular meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission for January 12th, 2023. Notice has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and sending a copy to the Montclair Times, the Star Ledger, and the Herald News. This is a public meeting which any member of the public are welcome to attend. The meeting agenda is available on the Montclair website as a link to the township's YouTube channel where the hearing can be viewed live or after the meeting. The hearing is also being live streamed, televised on Channel 34. That's what we were waiting for. So, Tommy, would you please call the roll?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Ms. Bennett.
Present.
Mr. Hindman.
Here.
Mr. Rooney is not here yet. I believe he'll be here momentarily. Mr. Reimnitz.
Here.
Mr. Graham.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney.
Here.
Mr. Burr.
Present.
Mr. Connolly.
Here.
And our secretary. Thank you.
I'm also here.
Thank you. As this is the reorganization meeting for the upcoming year, may I get a motion to elect a chair?
Motion to elect Chair Bennett, to re-elect Chair Bennett.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. A motion to elect the vice chair?
Motion to elect Vice Chair Hyman, re-elect Vice Chair Hyman.
Second.
Thank you. Motion to elect the secretary?
Oh, wait, we have to say all in
Oh,
favor.
Vote on
everybody,
that one?
sorry.
All-
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to re-elect secretary?
Motion to elect Tommy Sibilia.
Second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the assistant secretary, motion to elect the assistant secretary?
Who is that?
Janice.
Janet.
Motion to elect Ms. Talley.
All in favor?
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right. so
And
we-
for the record, Mr. Rooney has arrived
oh,
and is present.
Thank you. Hi, Steve. Okay, so moving along, we have the minutes of our last meeting, which was on December 15th, 2022. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes that anyone wants to add? No? Okay, so I'm going to,
I do have a question.
Sure.
But the term view shed is used throughout. What is the view?
it's
What are we calling the view shed?
the view from, it's identified, is there a preservation, there is a preservation term.
It's the view looking at the building and looking from the historic building. That is
Considered the view shed, okay.
Because we're using that in reference to the Lackawanna.
Yeah.
There are a couple of things that I would like to add to the minutes. On page 3, the third to last paragraph, where it says the commission stated that this is the most historically significant property in the township and was central to its development. The introduction section should add a reference to the local designation of this property, but it also should have the other three designations: the national, the state, and also the thematic. And I'll give you that verbiage.
Okay.
Okay? And then on page 4, the fourth to the last paragraph, it says, the commission raised concerns that attempting to blend in too well with the context could result in a missed opportunity to create a statement with buildings that stand the test of time. I guess that's okay. I was concerned that it was too, now that I'm reading it, I think, does anyone have any opinion about that? No? All right. On page 5, the fourth paragraph, which says Building C is larger by 15 to 20%, it should be the opposite. Building C is only 15 to 20% as tall. I'm sorry. The historic train station is smaller than Building C. So the historic train station is 15 to 20% of the proposed Building C. It's the other way around.
Well, this says that building C is larger than the waiting room building by 15 to 20%.
In
Oh, I
terms
have
of a
built-
footprint,
Yeah, yeah.
in terms of a footprint,
Say
not
that
by
ag-
square footage.
It,
I'm seeing it as taller. Buildings, what I,
It's
Oh,
more than
it's much
15%
taller. Yeah.
Right,
I think they
that's-
meant the
The footprint is 15% larger.
right.
But
base, at the base, around the area around the base.
I can add building C is larger, I can add then the waiting
footprint.
room building by 15 to 20%.
right,
Just to
okay.
make it more clear.
Well, are you saying the
specify
the
footprint.
footprint?
But so-
Yeah,
Okay.
because
Because
it
it's not-
dwarfs, that building also dwarfs the.
Okay, the footprint of building C.
And then the commission asked if there would be any maintenance regulations built into the plan to ensure there's no demolition by neglect. Is that something that's built into the plan? Well, that was something I brought up. Is that built into the plan?
maintenance regulations?
Right.
Not typically, because it's more of a development guideline.
Right.
Like you can specify that certain elements have to be preserved, but you can't mandate maintenance guidelines.
So it needs to be reworded. It's on page 5, the third to the last. It requested if that maintenance regulations be considered, be maintained, that maintenance be looked after throughout the process?
Required by?
Required?
But we, as the HPC, have the ability to look at buildings that have not been maintained up and down,
Right.
So that's something that falls under our
Yeah.
purview.
What you could mandate in the plan is that when they submit an application, one of the requirements is their maintenance or preservation plan, and then that would be subject to the approval by the review and approval by the board.
Oh, okay. So how would
So
you
like
phrase that?
they would have, like, unless we had specific guidelines on what we wanted to preserve and how, we couldn't put it into the plan, but we could tell them when they have their proposal, they would have to include their maintenance plan. Very similar to how like other developments, they have their operation and maintenance.
Would that be part of the
like a
site
lot of
plan?
their
Yeah.
engineering or stormwater.
So
Would that be part of the site plan and not necessarily
It
the
would be-
redevelopment plan?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be a condition in the redevelopment plan that when they come for site plan approval,
Got it.
that's one of the required elements, that type of report.
Well, should that be in,
Commission asked if.
we talked about it, but it's not worded.
Well, that's what we talked about, but when
All
we
right.
when we actually prepare our recommendations, we can specify what we
Okay.
actually want to recommend.
So maybe, Tommy, to ensure that there's no demolition by neglect of the historic features. Just add that. Right.
Okay.
And then to John's point, the last paragraph, the view shed to the waiting room building from Bloomfield Avenue.
Got it.
And that was it. Okay. So I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have Resolution HPC Application 2022-44, which is 348 to 360 Bloomfield Avenue. It was, we reviewed this last meeting for window replacement mastage signage plan. And you did get a new resolution that came through. Tommy sent it through earlier today, but, which is on number 7. It was only on page 2.
I also printed the revised version.
For
and it's
everybody.
For everybody
Okay.
tonight.
This is the same one that you sent this morning?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, and all it is, it's just the scope of work was just
Right.
tightened up. So the conditions are the same, and the recommendation is the same.
I have a comment, though.
Sure.
It lists Jonathan Pearlstein
Oh,
and
yes.
Sionis.
Yeah, that was a
doing this
leftover.
together.
Yes, I corrected that. I made that correction, but I'll note that as well. Thank you.
Where
Yeah.
is that?
It's Ryan.
Well, I don't know if I now have the older copy.
No, they both have it. It's Ryan Robertson, not Jonathan Pearlstein.
Okay.
I used an old
Oh,
resolution to do
good
this,
catch.
so
I didn't see that.
I will
Okay.
correct that as well.
Okay, so we'll remove that. Okay, great.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Excuse me, I have a comment on 7. 7, it says first floor windows will not be replaced. I would just say are not being replaced.
Yeah.
It's not that we're mandating they not be replaced.
I
Okay.
agree.
Which
Yeah.
number is that?
Number 7.
Yeah,
Seven.
that's a good
Okay.
point.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So,
Motion to approve as amended.
I move to, as amended.
second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And then next on the list is the resolution for the attorney for 2023, which is,
I see that I have the wrong year at the top of that one, so I'm noting that now. January 12th, 2023.
okay, so the change is the date of the year should be changed from 2022 to 2023. Has everyone had a chance to read this? And going forward, we'll have
Janine Bauer.
Janine Bauer as our attorney.
I would just suggest, we talked about this at the planning board meetings as well. When there's a change in professional, we should probably have a closed-door session to meet on, the candidates and have our input. I have no issue supporting this candidate right now, but I just think in the future, we should probably meet as a board and discuss professionals
Before,
before approval.
okay.
So do you suggest, because what we've been doing is we made like a small committee that included Kathleen, Jason, myself, and Janice to review the proposals. Would you, you can be included on that, or we can give the
I
proposals
suggest we
to
do an
everybody?
actual, I suggest we do an actual either special session or closed-door executive session at one of these meetings,
Okay.
and have that discussion as a group.
Okay.
Again, I have no issue supporting this candidacy, but I just think it's important in the future that we all understand who we're working with.
Yeah.
So,
So, just in terms of housekeeping then, Tommy, how soon can we send RFPs out for for 2024? Because if we're going to do our subcommittee review and then have it before the commission before the reorg meeting in January, we should probably have our submissions in by November, if that's feasible.
Yeah, I'll have to I'll discuss that with,
You can put out an RFP in September or October,
Okay.
if that's the case.
For the next
For the
year?
upcoming year, yeah.
for the upcoming
Yeah.
year?
mhm.
Okay.
yeah, I'll discuss that with Janice so that we can do
Yeah.
that next year.
Because I think it's really all contingent on what the council wants to do with the budget, so we'll have to
Yeah.
run
Well,
things
yeah,
by
well,
them.
it's, it is contingent upon what
Yeah.
the council does with the budget.
Because it's really
But it would be a
discretionary.
budget request coming
Yeah.
from the department head, which is the planning department.
Okay.
So she would make the request, as she did this year,
Mhm.
to have a board attorney for HPC, similar to planning board and to zoning.
Okay.
And I have a question. Has this budget item been approved by the council?
It's been approved by the CFO.
Or the CFO? Well, okay, CFO, excuse
Well,
me.
we're currently in a
We have-
temporary budget. The township's in a temporary budget. The final budget doesn't get adopted until, I believe, March, third quarter.
Okay.
So
You have the
we're in the
certification
budget
of
process
funds
right now.
with the resolution. I printed that out.
But
so
Ms.
you-
Bauer will start next month, next meeting.
As long as we get the contract squared away before then, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Burr for his expertise.
thank you.
Yeah. And
There's
good
Quite a
luck.
bit to do with the township.
Yeah.
We haven't heard.
You get another night back.
It's Okay, well, moving along to committee
Oh,
reports.
we have to, are we,
Do we?
Oh,
Any more
we never made the
discussion on
motion.
this?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, we had to make the motion.
sorry. Someone make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as amended with the
Second?
change in the year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thanks, Jason. All right, moving along, the Label Street Factory local nomination, landmark nomination is finished. But as a academic, you never quite finish your research, so I found one little pertinent piece of information that I added, and Tommy's put that up on the website, so we'll discuss that next month. There was a question with notification of the property owners, and they needed to be notified, I think, 20 days in advance. Oh, that's okay, in advance, so with the holidays, that wasn't done. And so we'll discuss that at next month's meeting. And then as far as grants, Tommy, can you give us an update on?
Yeah, I actually, the grant for 2023, it's finished. I'm waiting for one question to be answered by SHPO before I submit it, but it's ready to go. And that's for the commuter area part 2.
Okay,
To complete the commuter area and including additional properties that were recommended as part of Margaret Hickey's report.
and then the estate area, are additions that's been given to the state?
Yeah, the state has that. That's all squared away with them.
Okay, so that's all, so that's complete?
That's complete. So now it's a matter of, as far as the historic inventory viewer goes,
Right,
it's going to take some time to get those back up. It's a very tedious manual process to get them up, because I'm going to be adding the commuter area now to the
Okay.
map as well. So it'll
do you
get
do
done,
that?
but
Do you
yeah.
do that? Oh,
Mhm.
you have to do that,
Yeah.
okay. All
So
right.
that'll get done at some point. And then once the commuter area surveys are ready to go, then all of them will go back. The links will all go live.
Okay. And then, because we're a CLG grant community,
Municipality.
yeah,
CLG
municipality,
certified.
we have a report that's due, an annual report, which I believe is March 3rd? Or
Yes, that's going to be on the agenda next month, because
Okay.
we needed to do a couple things at this meeting for me to finish the annual report. So you'll have that in your packets for next month.
Okay, for 2022.
Yes.
Okay. And then I just want to announce that we will have a special meeting of the HPC at 10 a.m., which will be a virtual meeting, to finish the discussion of Lackawanna. By then, we have a resolution in place, and that will be when we adopt the resolution. Also for next week, if you keep it in the back of your mind, for some goals for next year, for this upcoming year, maybe we can discuss that too. So we'll have those two things on the agenda. Okay? Next is, anything else with committee reports? I think over the holidays, I don't think any other committees met. Okay. Public comment. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak? Oh, please. Just list your name.
My name is Johanna Coxeter. I live in the 4th Ward, and this probably could have waited till next week. I'm just kind of reiterating that I would like Label Street to become a historic district, and I would like Lackawanna to be much smaller in mass. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no old business, correct, Tommy? So, moving along, our new business, the first application is HPC application 2022-40 for 30 North Mountain Avenue for perimeter fencing. Okay, so if you can come forward, please. And good evening. If, just going to introduce the application, then I'll ask you to introduce yourself. Okay, so this is for perimeter fencing for 30 North Mountain Avenue. 30 North Mountain Avenue is known as Evergreens or the Schultz House. It is a local individual landmark property in the township designated by local ordinance. It was added to the National Register in 1979. The three-story Victorian residence was built in 1896. A two-story carriage house structure is located to the rear of the dwelling. The property is a corner lot at the southwest corner of the intersection of North Mountain and Claremont Avenue. Property is now occupied as a single-family residence, but it was previously owned by the Montclair History Center. Many of us have visited, which is now your home. So the applicant proposes to install a black steel picket fence along the perimeter of the property. And this application came before I believe it was minor applications, correct? And we asked you to come back to the entire commission because I think it's a significant change to the property and also significant change to the type of fencing which is normally seen on a traditional house. So that's why we asked you to come tonight. Going forward, I think that with the idea of escrow that's collected, Mr. Conley was not asked to write a report tonight, but I am going to ask him for his opinion. And so going forward, anything that's on a local landmark will be asked to collect escrow on it. Okay, so, Mr. Lin?
Yes.
All right, could you identify yourself and your relationship to the property?
Yes, my name is Peter Lin. I'm here with my wife, Jessica. We are the owners of 30 North Mountain Avenue. We're here, as you know,
There you go.
Okay.
We're here in connection with this certificate of appropriateness to install a perimeter fence. It is a single-family home. We have 4 children. 3 of them are here. My 4th one should be running in the door from wrestling any minute now. We've tried to propose a fence that we believe is appropriate for the type of home. We're looking to install a steel fence rather than an aluminum fence or a wood stockade fence. We think it's, fits the grandeur of the home. And we would like to install it at certain heights around the property based on what's allowable by zoning ordinance. And so that's the application. I'm not sure if I can answer questions for you, but I want to thank the commission for their time and consideration.
Thank you. What you've submitted on your application, maybe you could, which is a map.
Yes.
Oh, there you go. All right. So the map is up on the screen.
Yes.
I'd just like to say there was a couple renderings produced to show a couple options that I printed out for you all. This was not included with the application materials that were distributed to you as prepared today, but we can pull that up on the screen as well.
Oh, wait, are they here?
This time.
Correct, it's the 11 by 17.
But it has nothing to do with the placement.
That's using like a sample image of the fence, but to show how the privacy panel would work.
Yeah, well, we asked for the applicant to bring that, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to see it. Okay, so what you are proposing, and if you could just walk us through
Sure.
with the color?
Should I walk up to the?
Yes.
Sure,
Okay.
can do that.
On the side there.
All right, so can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So along the back of the property, we're proposing a 6-foot fence that will be picket fence style. I can show you the sample, but it's also in the pictures that Tommy provided to you. We would like to be able to also put privacy panels on there. If I just show you the fencing. This is the picket style fence. It's a sample. It'll be attached to steel posts. and we propose having a ball cap at the top. The manufacturer forgot to add the ball cap when they shipped it to me. So it would be a ball cap with a picket style fence. We don't want to have the pickets exposed. Obviously, there's issues with deer and impaling themselves, so we want to have it as this style. We would like to be able to put privacy panel on the fence. Tommy also provided a very nice mock-up that shows this is the privacy panel that would be riveted to the fence along the back, as well as we propose to do it along Claremont as well.
So this is the fence, the actual fence. You just have like diminutive, like.
Correct.
Like trade samples.
Yes, that's right.
It's very 19th century.
Miniature, yeah.
Oh, okay.
There we go. So I'll leave it like this so you guys can see it, and then also like this.
And where is
So-
that, so where is that proposed to be?
So this would be attached to the back of the picket fence to provide a little bit more privacy. The area is very busy on Claremont and North Mountain. As a family, we would like to have a little bit of privacy. This would be 6 foot in the back, where 6 foot is allowed. I'll just walk over to the map to show you. So this would be the 6 foot fencing. We were originally, when we had submitted it to the subcommittee, proposed stockade fencing. But we just didn't think that stockade fencing looked as nice as this metal fence, so we were proposing to put that fencing over here as a 6 foot with the privacy panel. This is existing stockade fencing already that our neighbors have in place. We were thinking of asking our neighbors if we can replace the stockade fencing so that it would have a uniform look. Obviously, that would be, conditioned on their approval. And then along Claremont, we were proposing to have 4.5 foot fencing, also with the privacy panel. This corner has to be 2.5 foot, according to zoning regulations. We would like to put a small gate there. And then I should have shown this in a different color, but we believe that the front should not have a privacy panel. We would like to have the front as just picket to allow public, I think you guys used the word viewscape earlier, of the historic home.
So the privacy panels will be every place except on the lower level there, is that what you're saying?
Correct, along North Mountain. That's
That's the only place there won't be privacy panels?
That's what we would like to propose, and we're
Yeah.
submitting.
All the rest would have the privacy panels.
Yes, sir.
Except for where it's existing.
And the side that's south?
So
That.
along here, there's deer fencing right now. That belongs to my neighbor who lives on Highmont. And then along here, there's 4.5 foot stockade and then 6 foot stockade. This is all owned by my other two neighbors on Highmont. I mean, I would like to have future approval, if possible, to put fencing that's allowed if they were ever to take down their fence, but we don't believe that we need to replace their fence at this time. It's far away from the road. It's not very visible, so we're proposing to keep this fencing as is.
And how do you propose to turn the corner there?
Right here?
That, yeah.
It would be a 90, it would just be on the property line.
I'm sorry, what type of fence?
So this would be, that's a good question. This would still be the picket fence without the privacy panel. I think this could be picket fence also without privacy panel.
Okay.
I think part of the concern that I have is that it's a little choppy, but that's because my neighbors already have fencing up. But I'm not sure there's anything I can do about that other than approach them and see whether or not they'd be willing to let me replace their fencing with fencing on my side that's uniform in nature.
You could also, there's no restriction against having two fences on the property.
No.
I think that would look, I have a concern with that look as well, to have a wood stockade up against picket fencing.
Yeah.
But you have but you have a privacy, you're proposing a privacy panel, right?
Yeah,
Across the back?
I could do that. I could
I'm
basically
just
keep
trying
it
to
uniform.
visualize, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think we're trying to find the best look if you will, for this property, while also, allowing my family to have a little bit of privacy. I mean, I can talk a little bit about why we're trying to put up a perimeter fence. I'm not sure if, the perimeter, the fence, I'm not sure if that's relevant to the conversation.
Well, it would be, because historically, this house would have not had a fence.
Sure.
So that, yes, so please speak to that.
Historically, this house did not have a fence, you're right. I think a lot of the historic homes in Montclair, up on Upper Mountain as well as on South Mountain, other houses, they do have grand fences that do wrap around the entire property. Some of them have, rather than posts, they have brickwork, right, to be going between the fence. Obviously, that's very nice, but it's also very costly. So I think having a perimeter fence around this home, while not historically accurate to this home, is not historically inaccurate to homes similar to this in Montclair.
And I just have a question about your choice of fence, your choice of privacy
Yeah.
panel, the design. Where does that come from?
Yeah, so we were talking about different designs with the manufacturer, and there's a process called punch plating, and then there's also a process of laser cutting. And laser cutting is significantly more expensive, although you can do a lot more. We found this sort of look that we believe is somewhat, I guess, Gothic. I'm not sure what the word is. My wife is a little bit more, she's actually an MF. She has her BFA, so she selected this design as a design that would match the character of the house most closely to the ones that we could find.
Have you seen examples of that pattern elsewhere?
In Montclair?
In Montclair, yeah.
No. There was one. Didn't we see one?
I saw something similar, but not identical. It's on a building on Bloomfield. They don't use it on a fence, but it's on the facade.
Do you recall which building?
It's the one, I think it's by the Exxon. It's by the fire station. Is that an Exxon or is that a Shell?
But it's not a residential home, right? Is it
And it's not a fence.
Yeah.
It's not a fence, it's on a
It's not a
side,
fence.
right.
Oh,
It's
it's not a
just, it's a
fence.
facade, it's a facade.
I see.
We're trying to find, I mean, look, definitely finding the pattern was a challenge, and I think this was the closest pattern that we could find. I mean, we're happy to consider other patterns, we just didn't have an option. We just thought that this looked like a Gothic look that, our house has, I don't know if you would call them Gothic style stained, or they have tin in the windows. And we just thought that this design would sort of go along in the same style. if you will.
It has what in the windows?
I'm sorry, they're,
Oh,
they are
Miss, can you come up just so we can pick you up on the mic?
Yeah, and maybe identify
Yeah.
yourself.
That's number 4, so.
can watch the baby now.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye out to make sure they don't run.
Just state your name for the record.
Jessica Lynn.
Okay.
Hi, so to help Peter talk a little bit aesthetically about the fence, we think that this is a really high-quality fence that is Victorian in style with the picket. Again, we chose the top because they're banning the open pickets in a lot of fences around our area because of the issue with deer, and we see that a lot in Montclair as well. So we like this. We had originally asked to have permission to just keep the stockade fence going in the back along where the red line is, because the purple is already stockade, and I think that is, also a traditional sort of look and material. It'd be very clean and streamlined since it's already on 3 of our neighbors' properties. Be very simple for us. We also have 2 puppies, and we have people who love the home that come onto the property all the time that either know or don't know that the house is now residence. I'm home a lot with the children by myself. My husband travels a lot for work. So the fence to us is very important. One of our puppies has already been hit on Claremont, so it's a very busy area. So I think Peter didn't necessarily speak to that before when you asked the question, but there are many reasons why we need a fence. Even though this house did not traditionally have a fence, we are a single family, and
Yeah, so I think the question that was presented was the style, right, of this particular pattern. And you were talking about the zinc windows and the fact that it's a Gothic style window. And so we were thinking that this is somewhat Gothic in style, but we're also, I mean, I'm not.
We just would like to have a little bit of privacy, especially where it's red in the back. I think it'd be nice just to have an enclosure that's private from multiple neighbors.
And originally, you had asked to come before the minor applications with a fence that it didn't come down to North Mountain. So, I'm going to ask why now you've expanded the area.
Right. There was an issue with where he had asked the fence to go. So if you know the property and you're familiar with the porch, the flow of the property is that there's a staircase at the edge of the porch and one towards the back. So it'd be very easy for us to put a gate on the front of the porch where there's steps down so that the dogs and the children and life could easily flow up and down the stairs. And it just is very conducive with it being one uninterrupted area that's safe for the dogs and the children to play. But pushing that back, the proposed 5 feet or whatever, 7 feet it
Well, I
was,
think-
would disrupt that with the staircases. It just didn't feel right for us, so then we said, okay, we'll spend the extra effort and enclose the whole yard so we could.
Okay.
I have a question regarding the privacy screening. Is there any consideration about utilizing landscaping along Claremont Ave to provide the privacy in conjunction with the fence?
Yes, there's definitely that
Okay.
consideration. We're actually we plan on adding that as well. I mean, the fence that we can put on Claremont is only going to be 4.5 feet,
Mhm.
so that's right about here.
Mhm.
It is on a berm, so you do get an extra 5 feet,
Mhm.
but we plan on planting, privacy bushes as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just for your edification, this issue came up with your neighbor farther down Upper Mountain, where they had the same issue. They had a family and they needed, I think they wanted to put, 6-foot fences? Yeah, and it was the same issue in terms of privacy and security.
Was that in front of the zoning board or in front of this?
It came before us.
It came before
Okay.
us.
Yeah, because it's a historic district.
Yeah,
as well.
just in
Okay.
terms of, consistency, it's, been our position that we want to encourage the use of landscaping rather than those privacy panels.
I see.
So,
Okay.
I
Also-
would strongly encourage you to consider that.
So,
Also,
yeah.
I don't believe we're allowed to, the city doesn't allow you to put fencing on top of a berm because it increases the height of the fence.
Is
Well,
that-
the berm goes up to the topography of the property, so it's not a hill. The property starts at the top of the berm.
I may be using that term incorrectly. Maybe it's not an actual berm.
It's a slope, it's a
Yeah,
slope.
the
But
property
it's a little bit
slopes
on a hill.
up from the sidewalk to where the lawn is.
Okay. It's not just a berm there.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah, so maybe that's just the wrong term.
So before we have any other questions from the commission, do you have anything else to add?
Look, I understand that the commission's purpose is trying to, keep the historical nature of Montclair. We bought the home because we love history. We've painstakingly restored the home, repaired and renovated it. My wife and I lived in a 1,000-square-foot carriage house behind the home for a year with 4 children and 2 dogs. And, we respect the home. We have chandeliers in there that are original to the home that we sent to craftsmen in Madison that, they were electric fixtures. They rewired the gas to be electric. They polished everything. And we've done what we could to, keep everything original. In this particular, for this particular application, we understand that this is not original to the home, but as a family, we're hoping that the commission can consider, the needs of a private family, and we're happy to try and accommodate, suggestions that the commission may have in changing or amending our application.
Okay, so we'll open up to questions then. And you started, Steve? Do you-
Yeah,
any-
in the introduction of the privacy panel also, you're going to have problems with wind with that, and you're going to have to strengthen the fence. I would prefer to see it with landscaping done instead of the privacy panels, but, I mean, the privacy panels are handsome, so.
Okay. Mike?
Can I address that, Commissioner?
Sure.
So one of the things that we were thinking about was that wind, and so we were trying to make these, the designs big enough where the winds would be able to go through. But I do recognize that it requires strengthening.
Yeah.
Yeah, because these are going to be quite large. I mean, the overall, what you're proposing is not, it's pretty
Yeah,
large.
this is just, the privacy will be about 4 feet tall.
And how, but 4 by 6?
The fencing is planning on be 8 feet, 8 feet panels, 8-foot panels.
8 feet wide by...
Between the posts, correct.
So I'd also like to, I put those renderings together, they're not to scale. As far as, now that I'm seeing these in person,
Well, that's
they
not
look
to-
much, the openings look much larger and there's fewer of them than there would be in reality. Because I just was using a photo to put that together, so I just want to say that it's not to scale.
I told
What you're
Tommy when
looking
he
at.
sent me the picture, I said, I like your design better. I'm gonna have him change the size.
Make them larger.
Yeah, make them larger.
Well, what you've shown us, can you hold it up again? It's sort of, it's half of the 8 foot. So if you, that's what, 2 feet?
Two by
Two
two,
by
yeah.
two.
Okay, so if you just, that would be double in width if you're looking at it, so it means that the openings would be bigger. And then you'd have another section.
Well, those openings, those would be the size of the actual openings. That's just a smaller version of the panel that
This
you'd
was
be using.
a sample that was provided to us using our best estimate of the size of these patterns. But in looking at Tommy's rendering, we think that the size of the patterns in his rendering is, if approved by the commission, is the size that we would ask the manufacturer to
But
create.
once you increase that, they're going to be a lot bigger, the openings.
Well, not necessarily, like, that sample might just be a cut of the scale they're using, rather than it being stretched out and being representative of a full panel in smaller scale.
What
So that's the
What
thing.
Tommy did here, these
Yeah.
are bigger
Right, that's
than
what,
that, that's all.
right, which is what well, if you kept them that size, then you'd have multiple.
It would be
They're like-
many more than
Yeah,
what
there'd
he
be,
shows.
that's what I'm saying,
There'd be more openings.
Right.
But of the same size.
Yeah, which is like it's a Tudor rose design. Anyway, any more questions?
I think, traditionally, the grand views of these, historic homes are what give these neighborhoods their wow factor. So I'm curious about the slope. I know, I completely understand the privacy in the back and the rear of the building. I'm just thinking along Claremont Avenue. Isn't there a slope anyway? I mean, if you put the privacy fence closer towards Northfield, aren't people going to be able to just see up to the house anyway? Right?
Well, right.
I'm trying to understand the question. Northfield?
So, what did I
No,
say?
Claremont and
Claremont
Upper
what did I
North
say?
Mountain.
North Mountain, what did I say?
Yeah, well, the privacy fence.
Oh, I said
isn't going
Northfield,
to be
North
in the-
Mountain, sorry.
On North Mountain.
Sorry, I was in Livingston the other day. But anyway, so North Mountain and Claremont, there's a pretty substantial slope, right? So even if you were to put the privacy panel there, you're going to have a direct view of the
right.
house anyway, right? So would it be possible to just shift the design where the privacy panels are geared towards the, more towards the back of the property and keep the fence more open down closer to North Mountain?
So are you suggesting that the fencing on Claremont that's halfway between basically the east side of the property along Claremont would not have privacy fence?
I'm thinking you could probably get a substantial amount of that. I almost feel like you're, if you're doing it for private, if you're doing it for the look, that's one thing. If you're doing it for privacy, I almost feel like you're wasting
Yeah.
your money,
Can I actually, I'm gonna
Yeah,
point
please
something
do,
out
yeah.
here. So our original application to the subcommittee, our original application to the subcommittee did have the fence coming over here, and this is what Jessica was talking about, where there's this sort of steps here, and we were going to have it continue here. It's something that we would still consider, because obviously I think, bringing this all the way down here, puts the fence right in the public view. And so we would only have the privacy fence up to here.
Yeah.
And then it would be picket here.
Right, and I think that was the original idea. I'm saying almost you can kind of, on the Claremont side, you don't necessarily have to do all privacy fence or all just plain picket, right? Maybe you play with the landscaping as well, but I just feel like for the expense and for the way that it's going to block the view, and you're not even really going to get the privacy because of the slope. Maybe it just makes sense if you're going to go the full and not do the picket over and go all the way around, that you keep it open towards the front portion of the property.
Yeah.
I was looking at the house today when I got home from work. It was late, so it was like 7:15 right before we got here, and the hill is about a 5-foot hill. So if you're walking along the sidewalk, a lot of the house will be blocked off. But that is the purpose of the privacy fence, right? We don't want people walking up and looking at it, right?
And up there it makes sense, yeah.
But if you go
up there.
across the street, surprisingly, my imagination of where the fence would be, you would still be able to see part of the first floor and then everything above it. And I think that you could still see a lot of the grandeur and the sort of the unique architecture of the house. Obviously, anything from North Mountain, you would still be able to see, even if the picket fence was here. Obviously, if we ended the fence here, right, there would be no blockage of the viewscape. And we bought the home because we think it's very unique.
And all I'm saying is maybe you just end the privacy panels right there, and then just continue with picket, and be creative with the landscaping. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to build off, that was my concern exactly. I have no issue whatsoever with the picket fence. I have no issue with the privacy fence in the rear. It's just that along Claremont Avenue, having the privacy fence, and I would recommend eliminating entirely along Claremont and using the landscaping. I think it'll be more effective to have the picket fence with landscaping behind it. You'll get better coverage. And from the sidewalk, it'll be less overbearing, but you still won't be able to see through. You'll get more privacy out of the landscaping. That would be my recommendation.
I'm wondering if my wife or Jessica is going to be unhappy with me, but would the commission prefer if we went back to the original application and had it run perpendicular, or no, not perpendicular, but adjacent or parallel to the front of the porch?
Let's finish questions.
Let's finish questions, okay?
Okay, sure.
I don't have any questions.
Gary?
I have a couple questions. You may have answered some of these. I may have missed it. Are there any privacy fences or panels along Claremont or Upper or North Mountain currently?
On his property or on
Just in
neighboring
general?
property?
They're facing the road. Same thing,
miles.
Claremont or North Mountain?
There are properties on North Mountain. There are properties on North Mountain that have fences
But
that don't run, that run up to the front of the house, like I was just talking about. But the only fences that I can think of that run to the front of the property are those along Upper Mountain.
Okay, that's what I'm looking at, is whether there are occlusive fences along Claremont, because I view your privacy panel as substantially blocking views, as to whether those kind of fence with the privacy panel or a type of fencing that's occlusive along those areas,
Jerry,
either Claremont.
he just testified that there aren't any other,
Yeah, that's what I thought. I want to verify.
Models,
Yeah,
okay.
I just want to verify.
So,
Okay.
okay.
The second thing is, what The fence that we're talking about now along this area is 4.5 feet high, and probably the privacy panels are a maximum of a height of 4 feet. What is the privacy objective that's achieved by that?
I guess 4 feet of privacy. I mean, I see where you're coming from, and one of the things I wanted to respond back to one of your questions is, you know, whether or not I put privacy panel or, you know, landscaping, landscaping could easily be, you know, if I get green giants, I mean, they'll be 20 feet in like 5 years, right? And if I did that all along, you know, Claremont and all along North Mountain, I mean, it would completely block, you know, anybody's view of the property. My goal isn't to block the view of the property from the public. I think my goal is to provide privacy in certain ways to my family, and I think a 4-foot privacy fence provides that. I think that's the best way I can answer your question, is that I believe that 4 feet is
Meaning it
sufficient.
blocks view of the immediate area? Is
It
that?
blocks the view of my children running around. It blocks the view of me getting in and out of the car. It doesn't block the entire house because the house is 3 stories.
It's a big house, yeah, it'd be hard to block that.
So I think the public still gets a significant view of the property while balancing, I think, our needs for privacy as a family. We're trying to balance that.
Okay, and then finally, I just verify that the existing fencing depicted in blue, and also the fencing along the left side, those are, they're not picket fences, they're wood fences, and they entire blockage.
Mm-hmm.
So they block light, they block anything. Okay, thank you.
It's stockade fencing.
Yeah.
That's
Stock-
exactly right, yeah.
Yeah, Jerry, if you open up Tommy's planning memo, look at Figure 9. That's a view of Claremont Ave. You can see how it's elevated quite a bit off the sidewalk. So 4-foot fence with privacy, I mean, it's not going to block the house, but you're not going to see people in the yard. So I think that's kind of what they're going for.
Any other questions before we ask Tom? No other questions? Tom, what is your opinion of,
Well, I really don't have an opinion, but just for the benefit of the commission, reading from the Historic Design Guidelines under 613 Guidelines for Site Features, it states that fences that are incompatible with the surrounding sites, like chain link, split rail, or stockade fences in areas where picket fences or iron fences predominate, are discouraged. And then further under specifically fences and walls, number 2 of that section says to construct new fences and walls using materials that predominate historically or that visually match these materials. Wood or metal for new fences and brick for new walls are generally appropriate materials. Under 4, it states that new metal fences shall not exceed 4 feet in height. And then under 6, it says locate non-traditional fences where not visible from the street. That was in the Historic Design Guidelines from March 2016, but in the updated design guidelines, it also states that low see-through fences with narrow slats or spindles, wood or metal, are preferable to fences which hide the yard behind. And then I also drove Upper Mountain and actually South Mountain, and there were only 2 properties that I noticed where there were fences that were on the entire perimeter of the property, and they were 88 South Mountain and, believe it or not, 88 Upper Mountain, and I think that's the one we just reviewed recently.
okay.
And they were similar to the style of this fence without the privacy panel.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Tom. So you testified, this isn't an aluminum fence, it's a steel fence?
It's galvanized steel.
Galvanized steel.
and then powder coated.
Okay, I just want to make sure that.
We actually have similar fencing along your parking lot over there. I was
Oh.
feeling it's very sturdy.
Okay, so I think what we have to
Yeah.
discuss now is traditional,
I just have one more question
Oh.
for Mr. Lynn. The vegetation along Claremont Avenue, has that been cleared? Or is it still there? Obviously now it's winter, so it's a bit more
by
sparse.
vegetation, what are you
So
referring to?
if you look
saplings?
at figure 9 on the planning report, and also figure 10, you do see quite a bit of,
Yes.
I guess you could say natural vegetation.
Uh-huh.
Has that been cleared?
No, we've
No?
kept that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we've cleared it so that people can walk under it,
Yes.
but we haven't cleared it on our property.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm very familiar with the area. I used to live on that corner.
Okay.
So I used to walk by every day to go to the train. And it does get fairly overgrown,
Yeah.
in the summer at least.
Yeah.
But if
I've got my tree trimmer,
Yeah.
so I can take care of that.
if that's still there, you're not planning anytime soon to remove any of that or clear it?
No,
as
I
part of
think,
the
so
fence,
one of the,
installation?
no, we wouldn't be removing any of
Okay.
that unless it's directly in the way. I mean, we do like that vegetation.
Yeah.
Obviously, Montclair has its tree ordinance. Anything that would be considered a shade tree as defined under the Montclair code, we would have to get a permit to remove. But we don't believe that there's any shade trees that is in the way
It's
of
not
the
in the way,
fence design.
okay.
Correct.
I do have one or other question. There are a couple of concrete site stairs that come from the sidewalk onto your property. Were there going to be any gates or?
We actually just rebuilt one.
Yeah, there's one on Claremont, I think, and one on the
There's
corner,
on
right?
Claremont and one on the corner of Claremont and North Mountain that we just rebuilt.
Okay.
The corner of North Mountain and Claremont,
Oh.
If the commission allows us to bring it all the way down to North Mountain, the zoning requirements is that corner has to be, I think we're going to keep it 4 feet, but we have to basically make it diagonal. Right, I think it's probably
25.
because people have to be able to see around corners, so they don't want fencing. I believe that's the reason why. So I think if you look at the design or the drawing,
You kind of truncated the corner there.
yeah. Mhm.
well, are there stairs at the corner?
There are.
They are, they're truncated, yeah, okay. Okay, so why don't we, any other questions then? No. So why don't we open up discussion now for both the location of the fence and the privacy panel? And the height, as Tom has just said, is 4 feet on a side? Is
No,
that-
it just says 4 feet. It says under 6.13.4, new metal fences shall not exceed 4 feet in height.
Is-
So that, I'm not sure if that jives with the zoning ordinance, but.
Because
that's
there
what
would be
it's-
difference between a back and a side.
Zoning permits up to 4.5 feet.
Yeah, so there is a inconsistency between, and I think I brought this up before,
Right,
that it doesn't jive with what it states in the design guidelines.
And also 6 feet in the locations that 6 feet is proposed here. All of these have been cleared by the zoning officer for
but
heights.
so where the red is, that's considered back, which is 6 feet, but from the end of the red to the corner, that's side yard.
But that's existing.
That's technically front yard. Yeah, that's existing fence on the neighbor's property.
Right,
Stockade fence.
but if he were to replace it, it would have to be
He's-
4.5.
Correct.
But, okay,
But the zoning ordinance doesn't clarify the difference between historic property, right?
It does not.
Yeah, so I think that's why this probably, right, this is specifically for the historic
okay.
neighborhoods.
I mean, where my neighbor, can I jump in here? Where my neighbors have the ability to put fence, including the blue on the northeast corner of the property, northeast being that way, they could put my fence on their property as a 6-foot fence, it would have to drop down to 4.5 along Claremont, right next to Claremont, and they actually dropped theirs down to 4.5. But then I would have to get a zoning permit. I would have to work with them to get a zoning permit, and then it would technically be their fence installation rather than my fence installation. So I'm not sure how that sort of makes any difference to sort of your thinking about whether or not to allow this fencing.
Well, you're the one that's coming before us, so.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, I mean, you have
absolutely.
to-
I guess my point is, if I had, actually, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
I'll leave it. I'll leave it.
Well, is this a district or is this a specific,
Well, it's a local
Site.
landmark,
just that building and not the
Right.
houses around? All right, so that
right,
makes sense.
yeah.
I'm going to withdraw that
Yeah.
line of thought.
Okay, so why don't we start with discussion, Steve? It's the location of the fence and the privacy panel.
Okay, I'm absolutely fine with the construction of the fence as you're showing it.
The picket or the picket and the picket?
But the panel, I think you should bring it back closer to, like halfway up Claremont, and then from like the house on back to the corner, where you really do need to have privacy. I would put in the privacy panels there. And I think it's up higher anyway from the street, so that's my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And in terms of the fence surrounding the entire perimeter, I think, I think it would make more sense if you could work it so that it goes up to the house and cuts across and leaves that open landscape that's, so prevalent throughout Upper and North Mountain, and kind of gives it that grandeur and that character. But if that's not workable, I wouldn't object to the way Mr. Rooney described putting in the fence.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my comments from before. I have no issue with the picket fence. I have no issue with the height of the fence in the rear, with the privacy panels in the rear. I do have an issue with the privacy panels along Claremont Avenue, and I think I would be a bit more restrictive than Mr. Rooney and Mr. Graham, and I would rather eliminate the privacy panels completely along Claremont Ave, because that section where you really need the privacy, it has the vegetation already, and I think you'll get a lot more bang for your buck if you supplement the landscaping in that vegetated area. And it will look more consistent, because it can look a little jarring if you have that privacy fence and then it just is gone along that right of way. So I think for consistency purposes, I would like to see no privacy panels along Claremont and use landscaping.
Can I ask, is that because you want to keep the viewscape of the house from Claremont?
No,
Or is
not so.
there-
It's more of the, the flat, black paneling being imposing as you're on the sidewalk, because you do have the topographic barrier, and then you're adding another 4 feet, so it's a solid wall. Whereas, you can have the picket fence for security, and then the landscaping will kind of soften that feel as you're walking down, but you'll still have the privacy.
The vegetation isn't as thick as it seems when you're looking at it.
Oh, yeah, I
When you're looking at
understand.
it perpendicular, you can actually see right into the
Yes,
property.
I understand,
Just
and
like-
that's why I'm saying you would supplement that with
Got it.
additional landscaping to fill those gaps.
Okay.
Before we go ahead, Tom, your comment, you read it from the design guidelines about the fence and non-traditional. Could you read that again before? I think we're losing some of the.
So there were two things. It said
Right.
fences that are incompatible with the surrounding sites, like chain link, split rail, stockade fences in areas where picket fences or iron fences predominate are discouraged. And then under 613, it said locate non-traditional fences where not visible from the street.
Right, and this would be considered a non-traditional fence with the privacy panel. I just want to make that clear. John?
But without, it would be traditional.
Yeah, without
Yeah.
it, without it would be traditional.
I really don't like the privacy panel. I think I think we all start focusing on that instead of the house. I mean, I know you want to create the privacy there, but I would go back to your original, based on what I'm seeing now, I would suggest moving the picket fence back to the plane of the front facade, turn the corner with your picket fence. What you do in the back there, if you want to do a 6-foot privacy picket panel thing in the back, I don't have any issues with that, but I think it's something that, I don't know, I think it becomes a focal point or a focal piece on the site what never existed before. So I would tend, it's the house is the focus, not the fence, so I would be against that.
Jerry?
Picket fence offers protection, and I think that's useful all the way around. I think it's consistent with the character of other fences. The privacy panel, I really dislike. I think they're wholly inappropriate. They're not matched by any other historical precedent. And the only place I would say they might work would be where you have the 6-foot-high picket fence. It's not visible. And along that area, for the most part, you have the wood stockade fence. So there I could say you could use it, but the rest of it, it just really looks out of place. And I think it would be so perceived as so different from all the rest of the historical properties as to be improper. So I would not vote in favor of privacy panels at any place except up in the
rear.
private areas where there's a 6-foot-high picket fence.
Right, in the back.
Yeah.
So my question then, and discussion, would be if you move the picket fence up closer to the house, I know that we're back to square one again, because that's what you had originally come to the subcommittee with, but where exactly are you planning, if it moves back to the house, closer to the house that's across the facade, are you proposing to put it out in front of the house again? Or, I mean, I know we came back to you to say put it behind the stairs, but you're saying, which I understand now, because that you want it in front, and then you would have gates on the driveway going up in the front, and then you would have a gate on the staircase coming off of Claremont Avenue, correct?
Correct.
And then you wouldn't have to have any gates on the front porch.
So we would put on the front porch probably something that would allow us, almost like baby gates, right? Something that would allow us to keep our children enclosed, our dogs enclosed. Otherwise, there would be that opening.
Right.
Where the kids and the dogs could just run out. We do have a 3-year-old who does like to kind of wander.
Right. But those are actually even temporary. You know, there won't be, that's a temporary thing.
So are you asking me where we would put the
To
front
relocate the fence
Yeah.
now, if you come down Claremont Avenue, at what point
Yeah.
would you make the right angle to go across the front? Yeah, if you could just show us.
So I think the appropriate place would be to turn right here,
Uh-huh.
and then abut it to the corner of the porch, and then start from the corner of the porch, and then run it to my neighbor's fencing right here. And then that would leave this entire area enclosed, because we plan on putting an 8-foot gate and this driveway that goes out. And then this is where we would put something that just blocks this exit temporarily.
Okay.
So it would just, and I think visually it might look better to run it up against, so you just have a continuous line,
Right.
but.
But I want you to understand that when you came before the subcommittee, the whole idea of having the fence to move it back is to give prominence to to the porch, and prominence to the house. That's why we normally, in terms of placement, want the house to become the focal point. And now what you're doing is you're creating a facade that flattens it out. You don't get the historic, the dimension of the porch. But
I think with a 4.5-foot porch, because the porch is already raised by 5 feet, and then the porch is actually, it's probably another 10 feet before you get to, so it's a 15-foot, like,
right.
floor to ceiling. And then there's a tin roof that slopes up. I think you would still have a significant grandeur. Plus, I think if you were to look at it from right here, maybe that would be the case where it doesn't seem as grand, although I'm not sure I'm fully on board with that. But obviously from North Mountain, I think the distance, right, there wouldn't be, I think moving it back 5 feet would be completely unnoticeable by any observer on North Mountain.
Well, it would certainly be more, rather than the privacy panel. It would give you that whole grand lawn that's
Right.
there.
That's true. And we thought about that. This lawn is a very, very, it's a sloping grand lawn.
Oh, yeah,
we
that's
would-
part of the whole, right.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Okay, so I think what I'm hearing is no privacy panel, privacy panel along the back with your design, which, that's non-traditional, so that would be according to our guidelines, with non-traditional fences, the appropriate height, which is according to zoning ordinance, and then moving the whole fence back up to the facade and have it come around with the picket fence.
I lost that last part, coming around with the picket fence.
I'm sorry, the picket fence come down Claremont, make a right turn and go across the whole, go across to the porch, and then from the porch to your neighbor's property line.
Yes.
And then you would keep the stockade that's on the southern boundary?
That is not my stockade fence, so I would.
No, I
yeah.
understand that, but you have the option to put your own fence
Yeah,
up.
I don't know do you think that looks good to have this fence abutting stockade fencing? I thought it would just look better just to have one fence. And just leave their fence. I mean, if anything, I would ask them if they would be willing to take down their fence and I have to put up
Right,
my
you'd have
fence.
to.
But then there's no privacy, right? So they probably wouldn't want that.
Well, but what we're suggesting is use landscaping as
Yes,
privacy, and you certainly have the opportunity to use that in front of your,
Yeah. Of course, if, we're not being approved for the privacy panels along Claremont, then we would use landscaping.
Well,
Right.
I mean, if they're removing the stockade fence, I wouldn't have an issue with them having a consistent 6-foot paneled fence along the back property line and then ending at Claremont. And it would be nice and consistent, it would be clean, and then it would be picket all the way down Claremont.
right.
But I don't think it would make sense to let them have stockade for one portion of the back and then picket for another portion and then picket down Claremont. You know what I'm saying?
No, not down Claremont. No,
But the paneling would be consistent along the back property line.
On the back.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so if, I will approach my neighbors to see whether or not they're willing to let me replace the stockade. Their stockade fence actually encroaches onto my property, but I don't plan on taking it down without getting there, without discussing it with them. I think they would be okay, I'm hoping they would be okay with having a 6-foot fence going all the way across, and I would replace their stockade. It would drop down to 4.5 where it's required to on the backyard of my neighbor's property. He already has 4.5 stockade. Then I would like to run 4.5 picket along Claremont. It sounds like that picket would not be approved for the privacy panel. And
Right.
it would be 4.5 picket going across with the porch, abutting the porch.
I'd like to clarify on the east property line, which is to the rear of the house. The fence, the stockade fence that's there now is the neighbor's fence. They received a variance to have it higher than the allowable height. So if he were to build a fence on his property in that same location, he could not build it at the same height.
Oh.
The neighbor would have to install the fence. They would have to apply for a zoning permit in order to replace their fence at that same height. So the neighbor would have to be involved, and that wouldn't be part of this application. It's six.
It's 6.
And it
Do you have to
drops
get
down
any-
to 4.5 at a certain point. But when we were looking at this originally, there was a variance for one of those properties. So I think the corner property at,
You have to have a new application
Upper Mountain in
to
Claremont.
replace the fence? You have to submit a new application?
yeah,
to
if you
it
replace the fence, you need a zoning permit.
For the same height?
If it's the same type of fence exactly, then no, but
But we don't
Okay.
have the power to give them a
Right.
6-foot fence.
No.
no, they would need a variance.
Okay, so let's
to do
wrap
that.
this up. Okay, so, Mr. Hyman.
All right, so I think what we are willing to do is we will give them approval for the 6-foot fence with the privacy panel in the back. In the area, I get, what was the color scheme
Red.
on that? In the red area. Right now, there's no proposal to do anything with the stockade fence, and then we're granting an approval to allow the picket fence down Claremont without the privacy panel, turning the corner, adjacent to the front facade and running across the property line, and that would be 4-foot picket.
Oh.
Because that's what's consistent. Are we?
Well, it's consistent with our guidelines.
It's 4. So it would be 4.
Yeah, we can't even grant
Does the
4.5.
commission have
Yeah.
any discretion to deviate from these
Yeah,
guidelines?
we can do 4.5 because it's not that wouldn't require a variance.
Oh, so we can, okay, so he wouldn't have to apply for a variance because he's
Yeah.
permitted
It's
4.5,
permitted
that's right.
4.5.
Our guideline, that's where the inconsistency
So-
is.
I don't
Okay.
have a problem with the.
I don't have a problem with 4.5.
And
Like-
I don't have a problem either.
Yeah.
We're talking about small.
Yeah.
I think with having it so open, I have a problem with it because in our guidelines it says 4 feet. But the fact that it's so open, yeah, could you right,
You can hardly notice it.
right.
Yeah,
I don't
it's-
think, and I think that the fact that it's going to be up on that hill, it's going to make it appear higher. I actually think that maybe 4.5 feet might work better with the, tie into the porch better if what you're saying that what is the distance from, how high is the porch from the ground? You just said it
So
was.
this fence probably will, I'm trying to think if it'll go above the decking. It
Well,
may not
that's a
actually
problem.
even go above the decking of the porch.
Well,
Like,
okay, so I think what we have to do now is I think you need to measure, you don't know what it is to the decking of the porch? You know.
Sorry, I don't know the exact measurements, but we used cardboard to mock it up, and it did look correct. The line, I don't remember exactly what it was, and then,
Okay.
Was that at 4.5 feet or
that's
4.5?
yeah.
So we don't want it to go above the decking. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so I think what we could do is we could improve it up to 4.5 feet maximum, but not to exceed the height of the deck.
Right.
Yeah, we can do that.
And would that be for all of the fencing?
That would be,
Or just the fencing
Right up.
along?
All of it.
all of the fencing would be
Okay.
maximum of 4.5, and where it ties in, it would have to be no higher than the deck. That'll give you the flexibility to max out the height and then have it even.
And is there any consideration, I know that we're concerned about precedence always, right, and we should be. The fact that it's set so far back is, I think, a reason to be more comfortable with 4.5 rather than 4 feet, set so far back from the streetscape, from the sidewalk. Does that have any bearing on this approval? Because I understand what you're saying, Chair. We wouldn't want in the future somebody to come in and say, well, you approved 4.5 feet here, why can't I have it as well? So does that make a difference, the location of it?
I mean, for me, it doesn't, but the size of the site and the topography, I think, makes it.
It is a unique
Yeah.
site, right?
It's unique and it's very open, it's very big.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're really going to be, I think what you will notice is the way it ties into the porch.
Yeah.
I think that's where you're going to notice it.
And I would say this is not a precedent for other applications. It's a unique
So that we
concession for
know
this site.
what we're doing and doing in the sense of approving your application. Your application, as I read it, had fencing along the perimeter. We're talking about a different fencing. You would have to submit a revised, amended, or otherwise, so that we know precisely what it is that we're approving.
Okay.
And that's just so it's clear on the record and there's no confusion.
Understood.
Okay.
So a condition to return to the design review committee for final
Well, can't we
approval?
handle this the same way we would with site plan, with conformance review? We just,
Yeah, I mean, we
just
can,
specify
It
in the
is.
resolution
It's the
what
same.
they have to do.
he'd need
Right.
to
He
get
just
his,
submits a
he'd need to
amended
get his
plan to
zoning
you.
permit, and then
Yeah.
I could review
Yeah.
it to make sure it's consistent with the conditions,
Yes.
rather than
Which means
having
you
to-
wouldn't come back to the entire commission, you would meet with two people or.
No,
Well,
it would just
no,
go
it
to
would
Tommy.
just- it would just be
Well, we
administrative.
need to see, how what the size of the fence is and how it ties into the deck.
No, but that's the thing, in the resolution, we're saying this is how it has to tie in.
Right.
He
And
comes
then I'll
back with
make
a
sure
plan
that
to
it's
Tommy.
compliant
Tommy
when he comes in
confirms.
for his zoning permit.
Okay. All right, so how do we,
All right, so I will make a motion to approve the application with the following conditions. The neighbor's fence to remain. The height of the fence along Claremont Ave will be 4.5 feet and will not include the privacy panel. The picket fence will not go along the property line around at North Mountain. Instead, it will turn the corner midway through the property adjacent with the front facade of the dwelling. And the height of the fence, the picket fence along Claremont Ave and in the front yard will be no higher than 4.5 feet. And will tie into the front porch at a height no higher than the front porch.
And in the back,
In the back? The back
on the
would,
western side, it's going to be 6 feet with privacy.
yes. So that would be, that's,
is
that
what's
was
proposed.
the proposal. So, mhm.
okay.
I'll
So that's
second.
my motion.
Second.
Second.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
All right,
so
thank you.
you know what you have to do.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate your
all
time.
right.
Have a good day.
Good night.
Thank you, good night.
You can keep going, I'm just gonna.
All right.
Thank you again. Have a good night.
All right, you too, thank you. Next up is a Board of Adjustment Referral, Application 2825, 319 Claremont Avenue. Dr. Cory Waxman is a bulk variance for front yard addition.
Oh, that one.
Hi. Hello. So, the subject property is an interior lot on, it's an interior lot on the north side of Claremont Avenue. It has 60-foot frontage along Claremont Avenue. The applicant proposes to connect the front and side porches to create a continuous covered porch. The subject property was surveyed as part of the 1982 Preservation Montclair Multiple Resource Area Survey, and as such is identified in the historic preservation element of the master plan. So that's why you're here tonight. The proposal requires a variance for the Montclair code for addition to have a front yard setback of 39.9 feet, where 44.7 feet is required. The plan submitted indicate an average front yard setback of 44.4 feet. So, could you identify yourselves and what your relationship is to the application?
Yes, my name is Cory Waxman. I'm the owner of the house.
Thank you.
My name is C.R. Tarquinio. I'm the architect.
Okay, thanks. Oh, yes.
I'm going to swear you in for your testimony.
Excellent.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I did.
Okay, we have your plans up on the,
We do. So I also have a handout.
sure.
So we received and reviewed the comments, of course, from the Commission's consultant architect, and we made some adjustments to some of the drawings, so I thought it'd be simpler to do the handout.
Oh, great.
This way, I think we can all follow one document.
Right there. Your internet, Steve? Jeez. I'm going analog here.
Yeah, that's the problem.
We can also do additional.
Love that.
Okay,
Under the thing.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll let you know as we go through these sheets, which ones we've revised from what was previously submitted in October. So the first sheet, it has been revised. One of the comments from the reviewing architect was to perhaps square off the corner of the proposed extension, which we've done. So the site plan is giving us, of course, a bird's eye view of the house and the proposed addition. You can see the house has two existing porches, a front porch and a side porch, and we're simply proposing to extend the front porch into the side porch and create one cohesive wraparound structure. In regards to the variance, which I think we'll be presenting next week, after having calculated the average front yard setback from the neighboring sites, the existing front porch is encroaching on the average setback, therefore we need a variance. The minimum requirement is 25 feet, but the average, it measures out to over 44 feet. So even though we're extending, aligning with existing, we're still behind the minimum requirement of 25. The next sheet, we just have some images of the existing house. This sheet has not been revised. I'll just walk us through a little bit of the materials and details of the existing house and porch. The first floor of the house has a narrow wood clapboard siding. The second floor of the house has straight-edged wood shingles, which are also on the third level, at the dormer level. The existing roof on the house is asphalt shingles. The main roof is all hipped roof all the way around with a flat section at the top. And both the front and side porches all have hipped roofs, also asphalt shingle. Both porches are unfortunately in serious disrepair, I would say. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to visit, but mostly the floor structure and the supporting piers, the brick piers of the porches are in considerable disrepair and really need to be rebuilt. The columns of the porch are original and they're classical columns. And we're proposing to, rebuild the same style column. The railing is also original, and although we did not do a great job of depicting that on our existing elevations, we are proposing to match that railing as best we can. The railing has a large profile top rail and a large profile bottom rail, but very simple 2x2 spindles. As I said, the porch is supported by brick piers, and the front steps are masonry. They're brick steps with limestone treads. They are also in disrepair. They have a non-original iron rail on them, and we are proposing to rebuild those steps in the same material as the porch, not as masonry anymore, and to have a railing that is consistent with the rest of the porch, not as an iron rail. The next sheet has been revised. The next sheet is the existing plan. Just to give you some context and size, the existing front porch is just under 20 feet wide and about 10 feet deep, and the existing side porch is about 10 feet wide and about 14 feet deep. You can see in our drawing, we have the dashed line going right through the front porch, which delineates that average front yard setback. The existing front steps are about 7 feet wide, and the new steps that we're proposing will match that size. We're not increasing that at all. And those steps do align and lead to the street with a slate walk, which we're not proposing to change in any way. There are some pieces of the slate walk that would be repaired. That's about it. Next sheet has been revised. Sheet V 1.1R is the proposed plan. As you can see, we are extending, as I said, the front porch and connecting it to the side porch, just to provide a little bit more outdoor living space. In this revised plan, you can see we've also updated the spacing of the columns, which is much more balanced and rhythmic and regular than our previous proposal. And again, the front steps will be rebuilt in the current location. The spacing of the front columns is roughly 10 feet on center, while the spacing of the columns on the side will be roughly 12 feet on center. Next sheet is just the existing second floor. This has not been revised. This is just giving us a view of the top of the roofs, showing that they're all hip roofs. Currently, the two structures both have hip roofs. The following sheet, 2.1R, has been revised. This is the proposed roof plan, fairly simple. We are proposing to maintain the hips on the left side of the front porch and on the, all the way around, including the back side of the side porch. So that will be consistent with really what's there now. The next sheet is our existing elevations. I really already described the existing materials by looking at the pictures. We are not depicting here the lattice that is existing between the brick piers, but we are proposing to rebuild that in kind. And the following sheet, which is perhaps the most telling, is the proposed front elevation. That's sheet 3.1R, which has been revised. And as you can see, we've eliminated the previously proposed pediment over the front, as it did not align with the front door. We've respaced the columns and squared off the corner on the right side. All the materials will essentially match existing. Again, I think the biggest challenge would be the railing, because it does have some very unique profiles on the top and lower cap, but we have found a product that we think would be successful, so I can submit that to you if you like. The bottom view is the side elevation viewed from the right side, where the column spacing is slightly wider. One of the comments was to make sure we extend the screening lattice detail underneath the new rebuilt steps, which we're proposing to do, and we're showing that on that bottom elevation. The next sheet is just existing side elevation, rear and side elevations. Again, the pictures, I think, did a better job than those drawings. And then the last sheet, V 4.1R, has been revised. It shows the proposed rear and side elevation, as well as some detailed pictures of the railing. The top picture shows a view, well, you can see the disrepair of the front porch, but it shows a view of the bottom rail. Unfortunately, on this particular one, the rail has dropped, so it's not aligning to the column properly, but it does match the column profile, which is similar to the product that we found. The top rail is the second image down from that, and the top view of the top rail is the bottom image. So again, we're proposing to replace all that in kind. I think that's about it. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer them.
Thank you. I just have one question. Did you address all the comments of Mr. Conley's?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm glad to go through them.
they addressed literally every comment.
Oh,
I
good.
think it looks great. It's much improved. I would suggest just
There you go.
for the saving of time. I think it looks
Okay,
great.
I had the same opinion, but before do we have any questions from the commissioners? Steve?
I have no questions.
No questions.
Nope. 10 out of 10, no notes.
No, none, okay. So the discussion, you've addressed all the comments. I think I also have the opinion that it looks great. And the columns that are across, the existing columns, or do you propose to reuse them and just reconstruct?
I don't know if all of them can be reused. I think the condition of the columns, we'll have to determine if we can reuse them. I haven't assessed if they're sound structurally. We'll have to do that with the builder. But we are proposing to replace them in kind. They're, I think, Tuscan order, and we're going to replace them with the same.
It's going to be hard to match.
Yeah, they have a bit of a unique lower detail, but we'll do the best we can.
They're in pretty bad shape, unfortunately, those columns.
Are they rotted from the?
Some of them are, yeah.
From the bottom? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, if you can reuse them and then try to get the same profile that you had. No, I think, so we'll open up for discussion.
I think, Tom, you had.
Yeah, I did have one other question.
Oh.
Before we let you go. The second pier from the stairs, since it is an end pier now currently, it doesn't sit where it should when you expand the porch. So are you proposing to rebuild that pier?
The brick pier?
Yes.
So all of the brick piers have to be rebuilt.
Okay.
The brick piers are probably the worst part of this porch.
Okay.
It just has horrible structure. The corner piers, of course, will be maintained, and then anything in between will be
Yeah, that
replaced.
second one from the stair is currently a corner pier, right? So the column sits at the edge of the pier, but now that you're expanding it, it should sit in the center line of the pier.
Right.
So if you're reconstructing it, where you show it on the elevation is correct? Okay.
Yes.
Steve, any comment?
No comment.
Discussion?
No, I agree. It looks great.
John?
I think it looks great. Much improved.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Tommy, in terms of the memo to the zoning board, I guess we could just indicate that I would specify in it that we support the grant of variance. All of Mr. Connolly's comments were addressed, and it's consistent with, the historic design guidelines.
Right, yeah.
And then a copy of Mr. Conley's comments go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is what we
Yeah,
usually
I can
do.
put those in there, yeah.
Okay.
And just say that they've all been addressed.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, good. Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks
Do
great.
you want these back?
Question, are these these are the revised plans? Can
Right,
we-
so Tommy, we sent you only the revised sheets,
Mhm.
and I thought it would be confusing to go back and forth, so we dovetailed them with the original sheet, whatever original sheets stayed, and that's what this is.
And this is what you want to present to the zoning
Yes,
board?
absolutely.
So then, if you guys don't want them, I'll just keep them.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, that would
It's
be
a waste
wonderful, we'll
of
save some
Yeah.
paper.
Oh, I
Yeah.
wrote on the-
Do you want us to send you a PDF that dovetails the whole thing, just like that? So, we'll do that.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
Dr. Waxman, are you the new vet in town?
Yes.
Oh, when will that be?
Well, we got approved by zoning, so we're almost at the point of taking bids from contractors, so hopefully soon. But we're anticipating maybe early 2024,
Oh,
maybe
all
for
right.
quick late this year, but.
Is that the location around the corner from here that we looked
Yeah,
at?
right
Yes.
there.
Oh, great, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Many building projects going on.
I know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is another Board of Adjustment referral for application 2830, 7 Clinton Avenue. Now, I think there's a, I don't think there's anyone here to speak. Tommy, is anyone here to speak? Okay.
There's no one here, but they have requested that you guys discuss the application now because they're going to the Board of Adjustment next week.
Okay. So So 7 Clinton Avenue is, it's a garage.
Well, Chair, I would just suggest then, why don't we table this to the end, since we do have people here? Let's have them.
Oh,
That's a great
okay.
idea.
All right,
Yeah,
that's a good idea. All right.
We have to be
That's a
here,
great
they
idea.
don't.
All right. So next is Board of Adjustment Referral, application 2831, 11 Friendship Place. This is rear addition to a single-family home. So if you would come up. I just need to get organized. Hold on.
Take your time.
Here we go. Okay, so this is at 11 Friendship Place. As I said before, it is an addition. The applicant proposes the new one-story bedroom addition. We are looking at this because, it's in the Label Street Working Housing Potential Historic District. Existing 2-story vernacular single-family dwelling, and it is rectangular plan with a central porch chimney. You're seeking a variance, correct?
Correct, a side setback variance,
Okay,
as well as a lot coverage variance. We're about 3% over right now.
okay, all
I
right.
mean, with the addition, we'd be about 3%.
All right, so could you just please identify yourselves, and then Mr. Burrow will swear you in?
Sure, my name is Daniel Leo.
Okay,
And I'm Bridget Mastrogiovanni.
We're husband and wife.
and you're the owners?
Yes.
We're the
Okay.
owners,
And your architect's not here?
yeah. No.
Okay.
I will swear you both in at the same time. Sure. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Okay. And so could you just walk us through what you propose to do?
Sure. We purchased the home in April of 2020. We wanted to move our family from Bloomfield to Montclair to be part of the community and for the school districts. And we want to create more space for our family. We have 2 great kids. We love the area that we're in. We recognize it's a small home and want to do right by it and for us and increase the potential that we know it has.
Yeah. Just to give you a little bit of our history, I grew up in Bloomfield. We moved to Bloomfield in 2014 as a family and bought a dilapidated Victorian home in the historic district in Bloomfield. And we fixed it up to be period accurate, really point by point. At that time, there was virtually no oversight in Bloomfield. So without the oversight, I should have brought pictures. We really renovated the house to, it was a jewel when we left it, and it was falling apart when we got it. I'm also part of the startup board of directors for the Sanctuary and the Green Arts and Cultural Alliance, which is seeking to bring funds to eventually renovate the First Presbyterian Church on the Green in Bloomfield, which is a historic structure. So our hearts and our actions are with this board, and we appreciate your time and service. The renovations that we're planning on doing are much needed for our family. It's a 2-bedroom house. We have 2 children, a son who's 8 and a daughter who's soon to be 13. They share a room right now. We'd like to get our daughter her own room. We have a single bathroom that is part of a previous addition.
And so is the kitchen.
And so is the kitchen,
Yeah.
right. So there's a previous addition on the house which comprises the kitchen and a bathroom. The bathroom is a very awkward, strange structure, no bathtub, and it is problematic structurally, held up by, in one part, a diagonal 2x4 underneath. So it's very important that this happens in a timely manner. Additionally, I have a disability with severe Crohn's disease, so I'm in the bathroom a lot. So it's important for us to move forward with this expeditiously. We're about 2 years behind due to the pandemic and my own illness, the pandemic's effect on my business and illness. So we're trying to move forward with this, and we'd love to do that, mindfully, meeting minds here. We do have some pushback on the recommendations, so we'd like to speak to that respectfully.
So before you get into the recommendations, my question is, this is a rear addition, correct?
Correct.
How much of this is going to be visible from the right-of-way, considering it's a
Not
very
much at
narrow
all.
lot and the
Yeah.
house already has the setback? Okay.
Virtually not. It's very,
If you were to peek over and you might see it through the driveway, but it won't stand out. And that's how we wanted it designed, not to be obviously an eyesore.
right.
That was my same question too. I know there's two kind of gaps where you can see in the back. Is one more visually
you
open
could-
than the other?
Right, from the west,
Yeah.
so up Friendship.
Yeah.
At the top, you could see it more.
Right.
Because it's a hill.
Because it's a hill.
French's Hill going up.
But
Okay.
that's not that's basically a neighborhood perspective. Nobody is
And that's
really
the
up
only
there.
real angle where you would see the roof line in the back?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Do you know anything about the history of the house?
Not so much. We know that it was built I believe in the 1870s.
Okay.
It's colonial. It is the structure that you see now. It kind of mars the history in terms of the shape of it. It doesn't. You can't tell. I mean, we know because we live there and we own it, but you can't tell from the street what the original structure was. Our proposal would delineate that more clearly, and we think that has precedent in the neighborhood. Our next door neighbor's house has a storyline to the visual. I don't know when their addition was in. It looks to me like it was built in the early 1900s, the brick addition, but it's a brick addition abutting a colonial structure, so you can clearly see what that structure was. So there's precedent directly in our immediate neighborhood of what we're proposing aesthetically.
No, the reason I asked is because we're going to be discussing Label Street manufacturing area
Right.
next month, and and you're in the proposed Label Street workers' housing.
Right.
So I just wondered if you had any documentation of who lived in your house, if they were a employee of the Crump factory, which would have been at that, would have been there at that time.
We don't know, but the size of the house would
Indicate
and
that
the area
it-
would indicate that it was.
Right. And I guess the front porch is off.
The front porch that exists now, I don't believe it was original. It also has some structural integrity issues that we seek to rectify eventually. It doesn't appear to be original.
Would that have been where do you think the original door was?
I believe the original door was the interior door that is, so basically you walk up our steps and it's a little mudroom,
Right.
and then there's a door to the house. I believe that was the original door.
Oh, okay. So it has side entrance.
Yes.
Okay, so, thank you. Could you tell us now what you're proposing to do here?
Sure.
We are proposing to add a small but lovely bedroom to the back of the house, renovating the kitchen and the bathroom, and tacking on the bedroom in the back there.
And that's just going to be a one-story addition?
Yes,
Correct.
thank you.
Correct. We'd also, the bathroom that exists now would be enlarged at the same time.
Okay, so thank you. Questions? Go ahead, John.
In the plan, what is in the upper left-hand corner below the two picture windows in the bedroom? What am I looking at there? Is that a bench of some sort, or is that
Where it says new,
what?
it says new, something.
In the
The
bedroom
new
addition?
bedroom addition.
Yeah,
Yeah, the upper
What is-
left.
Yeah.
upper left.
What is
I
that?
think it's, oh, here, Danny. Right here.
This?
That is, so,
Oh,
Oh, yeah, okay, well, that is a bench.
A bench.
Yeah, it's a bench.
Okay.
It's a bench
Okay.
storage unit. I think that we're leaving open the possibility of coming before you again and going up at some point in time. So that would be some sort of, access point to the second floor if and when we ever wanted to do that.
but we haven't decided.
What
on
is
that yet.
what is the existing foundation? Is it just a stucco on block or
It's
stone, or it's
the-
stone?
The basement is quarried stone.
And the
And it's
outside?
I've parged it myself inside, and the outside is parged. I assume it's stone, but it's parged, I don't know.
It's parged smooth on the outside.
It's not so smooth, it's like a stucco look.
Mhm. Okay, those are my only questions.
questions, Mike?
No, I was just curious about the sight lines. No further questions.
And, so, before, Jason, are you proposing to extend the entryway into a mudroom? Oh, so it continues?
Yeah, we may fix that up, but we're
Okay.
not
Yeah.
proposing to change those lines.
Okay.
I have no questions.
I have no other questions. John?
No,
Jerry?
I did my questions.
All right. So, Mr. Conley, would you go over your comments then? And then
Sure.
maybe,
So I disagree with the comment about the street view. I visited the site on Monday, I believe, and actually met the owner out there. You can see the whole side of the house from the street. So you can see the addition, the existing addition, and the proposed addition you will be able to see from the street. My comments. So my first comment had to do with the roof form is somewhat complicated for the proposed addition, and it kind of creates a chaotic streetscape, as you can see from the proposed elevation. The applicant should consider revising the roof shape so the proposed addition and the existing one-story structure at the rear can be easily covered by a simple roof form. That's my suggestion. My second comment had to do with the siding that's proposed for the addition shall match the existing siding that is existing behind the aluminum siding at the two-story section as closely as possible. In the event that somebody wants to restore the house and remove the aluminum siding, you'll kind of be ahead of the game there. Third comment had to do with the proposed porch stair railing should be compatible with the style and design of the existing building. Fourth comment, the applicant shall consider the installation of leader sleeves and underground storm sewer to control runoff onto the adjacent property. The fifth comment had to do with the windows. All new windows shall have a visible historic sill. Avoid wrapping the casing around the windows, which is shown on the elevations, and include a drip cap at all openings, including the doors. The sixth comment, is there a plan to include any exterior lighting at the proposed addition? There wasn't any shown on the drawings. And then detailed specifications, cut sheet, manufacturer's product information for all proposed windows, doors, and lighting shall be provided for review by the HPC. And that was it.
We have comments for each of those. For the roof, I think that's an aesthetic call, to be honest. To me, that's purview of the homeowner. I'm not sure that the characterization of it as chaotic is...
Agreeable, yeah.
I don't think it's chaotic. I think it's nice. And I hope that you would concede our prerogative there. I think that it's a sharp look, and so we stand by that design. We of course want to work with you if there's something that you would prefer to see. We're interested in hearing that, but I disagree that it's chaotic. I think that it's modern, and the modernity of the look will only tell the story of the Label Street district more because it will clearly show what the original structure was, as opposed to creating an anachronistic structure and pretending it was built in the 1870s. That's our personal aesthetic position on it, and we feel strongly about that. We will defend that, but we're not here to say no, we're here to work with you. But that's our aesthetic position.
In addition, also, the arch of the roof allows for more ventilation inside, which is great.
Correct.
Well,
The ceilings are low in there generally, so that, in that point, it would be kind of the one place in the house where there's a kind of a lofty feel, and if we think it would add value to the house and add,
And also speaking to, we do intend, which I missed to say in the beginning, this, we're not looking to fix up and move, we're looking to settle and stay.
right, this
So
is our forever home, basically.
yes.
Two questions, Tom, I actually have a question for you on that. So typically, we do want to see the new buildings distinguished from the historic buildings. Is the suggestion that it's too severe a distinction? And second, what would you propose to do with the roof line?
Yeah, I think it's just, it's non-traditional.
Non-traditional?
Right, it doesn't really fit in with the neighborhood. It's just, it's very odd.
What would be the ideal, I guess, roof line?
Just a simple gable.
Simple gable?
Yeah.
Okay.
May I, can I ask, the picture on figure 8, that's the garage? Is that your garage?
Yes, it's too small for an actual car. It's more of a shed at this point. The modern cars don't fit in it. We're actually planning on reclaiming about 15 by 10 of pavement in front of that and turning that into grass.
Right.
And which would still allow for the 2-car rule behind our fence. So we're actually gaining pervious land with our plans. We haven't included that in part of the plan because it's not necessarily.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what, and this staircase, does that come down from the existing house? This staircase, what is this
That
staircase?
goes,
outside?
yeah,
Yes.
correct. That
Yes.
goes to the existing addition, which is directly to, basically, there's a very small entranceway and then right to the bathroom.
Kathleen, you can see figure 30.
Okay.
So you can see the house, I think you can see in that picture how shoddy the current back stairs
Oh,
are.
I see. Okay, so you're working within a very confined,
We have limited possibilities, yes.
right, okay.
As far as the siding goes, if we want to discuss that, again, I think that it's our preference to distinguish the addition from the original structure, and we propose to do that in a subtle way. The clapboard siding that we hope to use is just a little wider than what we assume is under, which is not aluminum siding, it's actually vinyl siding. But we are not in a position financially right now to excavate and find out what actually is under. We don't know if it's shingles or 6-inch clapboard. I hope it's 6-inch clapboard or 4-inch clapboard. We don't know. And we don't know the condition of it. And we're not in a position right now to do that. That's a $25,000, $50,000 job. And considering that the reason that this potential historic district is that it's worker housing, I hope that there's conscientiousness of the financial impact of these recommendations.
So you're proposing clapboard or shiplap?
I'm sorry, shiplap.
Okay.
Oh, okay. And you're requesting variances, so the west yard setback, to allow 8, where 6 feet is required.
Basically, we're asking to keep the line of the house. The house was built before those zoning rules were put in.
Right. And then on the other is, I see, it's for the entire house that you're requesting about.
So the house is, if the house was built today, we would need the variance for where it lands on the westward side.
Right.
Because it's right on the neighbor's property.
Right.
So we're seeking just to run,
To continue that line.
continue the line.
No,
to
but
10
you're also
feet.
requesting a footprint larger than where 25% is, coverage is permitted. You're requesting 28%.
Yes. Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, those were my questions. Any other discussion? Questions, discussion?
Do we go through the rest of the, did they address
Do
the
you
rest
want,
of the comments?
we're happy to address each.
Yeah, if you
Oh,
could
I'm
just
sorry, I
address
thought
the
you
rest of
did.
the comments.
I thought you did.
No,
Sorry.
We talked about the siding. The next one is the porch and railings, not compatible with the style of the existing house. We're open to, we're not
It's
like
not our
totally
preference,
sold on
yeah.
exactly with the railing we
Yeah.
want, but our preference would be a modern railing in the back there to be consistent with the modern addition. But again, we're not here to be stubborn. We want to work with you, but that would be our preference, to keep a modern look there. As far as the windows, the current windows, there's no historic sill apparent in the current windows. I probably should have taken a close-up photo of the current windows. It's a really bad look. They're kind of terrible, and the vinyl siding there is shoddily done, and eventually we're going to do something to make it nicer. But I'm not sure.
There's no
we wanna-
historic
there's-
sill
I don't know-
showing
I don't
through
know
at the
what we're
moment, yeah.
matching really right now. So our best bet is to do something economical and nice in the back. Again, it's in the backyard. As far as the lighting, our plan is to put sconce lighting at the back door. We haven't chosen what that would be yet, but something simple probably.
And
as far as-
materials,
Yeah, we're in the
still-
schematic.
We're not there yet,
We're in the schematic.
choosing materials,
Okay.
yeah. But trust assured, we want to make it look really nice.
We do, we're really excited to do this.
Yeah, we really are. It's
you
been a
know.
while coming to this point through everything, you
Yes.
know, so and we love the area that we live in.
Our
We
neighborhood is-
specifically chose that area.
Yeah, we love Friendship Place. We love the strange structure at the top.
Yes.
I don't know if you know Friendship Place so well. There's the
It's a kind of a cement.
it's a
yeah.
double lot. There's one on North Fullerton. There's a large two-family house on North Fullerton, and in the back of the lot, there's a funny old structure that faces down Friendship Place. I mean, I think many people would probably think it's ugly. We love it. It's a funny little square
Being
structure.
renovated right now,
Being renovated
yeah.
right now.
Oh, I was just going to ask, what is that?
It's gonna be a rental property. The door they put in there is
Hotel modern.
It's like a hotel modern door. It looks like something from a Hollywood bungalow. But it's nice. You know?
It works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a motley street. It's not. It's not. You know.
A motley neighborhood.
Well, we love it. We love it. We love our neighbors. We know our neighbors.
Right.
You know, our kids run to their backyard to get their frisbees. It's fine. You know.
I have one question.
Yes.
Just for the record, I think you said it before, the addition is essential for you to continue, your continued occupancy of that house
100%.
due to your family size.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Our daughter keeps asking, when are we going to renovate?
Thank you.
Okay, now, questions. Steve?
I really don't have any questions.
Mike?
No additional questions.
No, I don't have questions either.
I don't have any questions.
I asked my one question.
Oh, okay. I have a question for Mr. Conley. Maybe you could distinguish between shiplap and siding. Clapboard.
Yeah, well, shiplap is kind of a flush siding.
Okay.
Right, as opposed to a beveled siding.
Beveled siding. And that's what you're proposing on the entire addition? Because you have sort of, there's like an indent, the kitchen, bathroom, and then there's a new bedroom.
Correct.
Okay.
So, right, the kitchen, there's an existing addition that we didn't do. I don't know when it was done. But we assume that what's underneath that vinyl siding is not matching what the what is on the rest of the house. So we would start there and.
From the kitchen
From the
to the back.
kitchen, from the old addition, and continue on the new addition.
Right.
You know, and down the road, you know, intending to probably most likely peel away the front vinyl and really see what is on the original structure.
Dying to, but it's
Yeah,
just-
we're excited
It's not
to
in the
do
cards
that.
right now,
Yeah.
but dying to do that.
And that sloped, or the angled roof that's on the proposed new addition, will that have windows in it, or is that?
Oh, on the roof itself, like a sunroof window?
Yeah, or,
It's not in our current
Plan
Plan.
right now.
I'm not against that.
no, I just wondered if that's why you have it angled. That, you know, sometimes it faces the north, but
I think for the idea of more space interiorly, and potentially if we down the road wanted to go up. But I think it's also for ventilation.
The architect proposed an alternate plan which angled from the joint of the old addition kitchen just upwards. And we felt that it marred the view of the backyard from the second floor bedroom more than this does. So you can see the backyard better here.
Oh, really?
For the second
From
story
the
in the
second,
back
right.
window that looks out. So
Okay.
it's for light and sight.
Okay, okay, thanks. So, discussion. Steve?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I think considering that it's primarily in the rear of the property, I understand Mr. Conley's concern about being able to see it when you're right there. I think that I'm okay with it as well, and that I would encourage considering the gable suggestion that Mr. Conley made. I respect his opinion on these matters, but overall supportive. So,
Yeah, I overall support it. I am less concerned about the visibility in the back. It is very narrow, even if you can't see it. But I would encourage you to modify that roof plan. So it's just a little bit simpler. It's more, I think you do want to go with a cleaner look on that.
Which may be the alternative plan that you just, we haven't seen, but you're...
I mean, I think it was a little more extreme looking.
Oh.
To me,
Okay.
it was a little odd. It was a little more like overtly modern looking. And again, the height, the tallest section was further south, towards the backyard. So there was less of a view of the backyard from our child's bedroom.
Oh, so the angle didn't come off the main house, it went up?
Yeah, it went like that, like the.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Because for financial reasons, we need to, and structural, we need to keep basically the roof of the kitchen as is. We're not remaking that roof. So that line is what it is, basically. So the seam there is the trim height of the seam is what it is. So in order to get any further height in the bedroom addition, we need to.
And the bathroom.
And the bathroom. We need to come up somehow. And so we thought that was the most modest approach.
Okay, well, the one comment of Mr. Collins is about the leader sleeves, and do you have a plan for that?
That's something that we would absolutely want to do at some point in the future. Being that the impervious coverage is not over the limit right now, it's not something that we have felt is necessary. I'm not sure that, whose purview that is to enforce that. It's a budget buster for us right now.
Yeah, it would be a consideration of the zoning board.
Right.
And I recommend. I understand the cost concerns of putting in something underground, but maybe think about even something as simple as a rain barrel, because it's more about the runoff onto the adjacent property, and just having a rain barrel will prevent that.
Sure.
Then so.
I mean, I don't know how. I assume you all live in town. I don't know if any of your basements got hit last August, but ours did. So it's on our mind for sure.
And you are requesting a variance for building coverage larger than 25%. So that would be, I think that's a very,
I see.
yeah,
Sure.
important thing to
I think this
consider.
The underground system proposed here is a good recommendation, and one that we would hope to do eventually. We can't afford that right now. So we're absolutely not against that.
And then the porch stair and railing, are you proposing to change that?
The porch stair and railing right now is falling apart.
Oh,
and
it's awful. Yeah, I mean, if
dangerous,
you
and it
look
looks
closely,
like
it's just not, not
Yeah.
what you would
It
want.
looks like somebody
Yeah.
like went to Home Depot and bought
You can
some
see in the
things and-
pictures
Right.
how damaged
It's
they are.
embarrassing, to be honest, to have our kids' friends over.
Okay. Those are my questions and comments. Otherwise, I think the idea of having it as an addendum to the original house, which looks very small, very tiny.
It's a very
It's a
small
small
house,
house.
but we
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
It's a big apartment.
Do you have a fireplace?
No.
A chimney?
No, it's the, no,
We have
chimney goes
a
right to the
chimney,
basement.
but it goes to the basement, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's the furnace.
A furnace. John?
I generally like this addition. I like the fact that it sort of describes the original house in a very geometric, clean way and really sets itself apart. I think it's the right kind of thing to do as opposed to trying to make it match historically the existing house. I think if you put a gable at the end, you'd block the window on the second floor. That's not going to work.
Right.
So, although you can understand the gable,
100%.
it would kill that window, it would kill the bedroom upstairs. I would tend to accentuate the joint between the old and the new in some way, to have some sort of reveal between the old and the new. I don't know what, instead of just flush across there with a little piece of vinyl trim coming down. Somehow, some sort of little reveal, just to break it apart. And other than that, those are my comments.
Thank you.
Jerry?
I view the small addition on the back as generally not visible, not changing the historic character of the neighborhood or the house, and preserves the use of the house for the family that's there, that needs this addition to continue at that house. So I generally support it.
Okay, so I gathered that, I would say that we're all generally in support of this, and to consider the installation, Mr. Conley's comments about the leaders and the underground storm sewer, I mean, that's in the future. And also, the windows, I'm sorry, we didn't discuss the windows, the new windows, what are,
I mean, we don't have historic sills on the house presently, so
Okay.
I'm not sure about matching something that's not there.
okay. And then, so for the new windows, doors and lighting should come back for, to the minor application committee. Wait.
The revisions.
Revisions.
Yeah.
Design review, we have these
That would be
committees.
our recommendation to the.
Oh, when we get to that point, we can bring that
Yes,
to you? Sure.
yes.
Well, so what happens is that gets recommended to the Board of Adjustment, and then they may or may not add that as a condition of approval. They probably will.
So our Board of Adjustment meeting's on the 19th.
It's the 18th, it's next week.
Sorry, it's
Yep.
next week.
So what happens is I prepare a memo that summarizes these comments, and I send it to them so that they can review it in advance of the hearing.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, I'm just not following along. What would that
So
recommendation be to the windows?
If they approve it and then the board uses that as a condition, basically, once you have your windows selected, you would submit like the cut sheets to me, and then we would review it with the committee of the HPC to just make sure that they're okay with it.
It's not another meeting.
It's not a
We just-
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to-
This has been fun. We'll come around.
Yeah.
Insightful, yeah.
I want to make sure that comment about the reveal between old and new
Oh, yeah,
is
that is included.
clearly defined.
Yeah, that's.
Do you have something specific in mind?
No, I think it would help your concept.
Yeah.
Just
We're with you.
break it apart. I don't know.
Sure.
I'll let you guys decide.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for bumping us up.
Sure.
Well, depending on if the kids are in bed, we'll be on Zoom watching the discussion.
Oh, boy. Yeah, we do that, we need to get that before 10 o'clock. All right, so the next is a Board of Adjustment referral for 7 Clinton Avenue, attached garage addition to a single-family house. Tommy?
Yeah.
All right, we'll take a 5-minute break.
right. He's up there.
Okay, so we're ready to go? Okay, next up is application 2831, no, application 2830, 7 Clinton Avenue, which is attached garage addition to a single-family house. The applicant is not here, so Mr. Sibilia would give a rundown, a summary of what they're doing, but as an introduction, let me just say that this subject property is in the First Residential Historic District, as listed on the New Jersey State Register of Historic Places. The 1986 nomination report describes this as Montclair's first commuter neighborhood, which has remained residential since its original development. Pursuant to that, this application must be heard prior to its introduction to the zoning board. The applicant proposes to complete a construction of a garage structure. Although the new garage will have a similar footprint to the original garage, the style of the structure is being changed from the previous flat roof design to a cable roof design. And this is, they're requesting 2 variances, a side yard setback and a rear yard setback. So, Tommy, you're up.
At my last planning job, I actually had to present every application that came to the board, but I didn't prepare for this one, so don't get your hopes up. So yeah, Kathleen summarized it. It's basically there was a garage structure there previously. There's a carport that connects the main house to the garage. I think it's a 1-car garage. It's not occupied by any cars currently, but the original garage structure was torn down and they started to rebuild a new one, which is what you see in the plans. It's in the same footprint as the existing garage, but it has a different roof form. So the existing garage, or the previous garage, had a flat roof. This one will have a gable roof, which will does project over the carport very slightly. So this is Google Street View. I put this in here just to differentiate between what's there now and what used to be there. You can see here that the garage wasn't visible at all. The roof line was not. And then in the pictures I took, it's a little hard to see because they covered the structure in tarps to weatherproof it in the meantime while they're getting their approvals. You can see it a little bit here. It's, the roof peaks up above the carport. You can see it more clearly if you're standing in front of their neighbor's driveway on Clinton Avenue. Again, the tarp is covering the entire thing right now, but you can see most of the side of it from that location.
Tommy, just one clarification. So they tore down the garage, put up the carport, tore down the carport, and started the build. Is that what happened?
So the carport has been there.
But I thought you mentioned that there was a 1-car garage there initially that got torn down?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So there was a 1-car garage. Let me pull up the survey. It's a little easier to see it this way. So this is a partial survey. This is the house. This roof overhang is what I'm calling the carport, and then this is the garage. So there was a garage in this location in the same footprint. It was torn down, and they're building a new one with a new roof in the same location.
And is the carport staying?
Carport is staying.
Is staying.
Yes.
Okay.
And because it's connected to the main house by the carport, it's considered part of the principal building, which is why the variances are the way that they are. Instead of for an accessory structure, it's for a principal structure. And so, yeah, they need the rear yard setback. They're requesting 1.8 feet, and then the side yard, they're requesting 6 inches, which was the setback of the previous garage. So that's what's being proposed. Again, you can see it slightly from the street. It's not super visible. The one issue that the zoning officer brought up, and that I think the neighbor mentioned, is that there are eaves coming off because it's a gable roof, and because they're only 6 inches from the property line, the eave actually encroaches onto the neighbor's property. And so that was kind of our main concern from a planning standpoint, is that they need to change the roof line in order to avoid any encroachments. So that's basically it. We can go through the rest of the pictures. That's a view back through the carport towards the garage. And then this is what it looks like from the backyard. And there's not much more to it than that. Let's see.
Can you go back to that picture? Is the carport actually wide enough to accommodate a car?
It is.
It is, okay,
It's 21 feet, I think.
okay.
It doesn't look like it, like that there.
Yeah, they don't have it dimensioned in the survey.
In the photograph, it looks a lot shorter.
Tommy, can you go back to the backyard view also? I just want to
Yeah.
see the, how it lines up.
Well, are they proposing, what are they
Oh, and
proposing to
this is
use
a view between the two properties. I had to kind of stick my arm through a wall to get this shot.
Well done.
Was the original garage just an extension of this carport?
I don't know when the original garage was constructed. There wasn't any record of that, but there was a variance application that was approved in, I don't remember the year. I mentioned it in my report, to expand the garage, kind of towards Clinton Avenue and then back into the rear yard, but they never constructed it. So as far as I can tell, that garage has been there for a long time.
They started building this without a permit.
Yeah, it
Correct.
sounds that way.
This is June of '99 was the
Yeah.
variance.
So in June 1999, they were granted a side and rear yard setback variance.
Right, and I believe at that time, there was also a lean-to structure on the rear of the garage. That's not there anymore, or that wasn't there, I think, when they tore it down, which is why the setback is showing 1.8 feet. I think before, it was even less than that. It was just a couple inches from that rear property line, but that lean-to is not there anymore.
So Tommy, just to clarify, because it's a little bit confusing on this thing, the prior garage and the basic layout dimensions with a flat roof were previously approved, and now they're seeking to change, the only change is instead of having a flat roof, is to have a gable roof.
That's right. The garage was already there. There was no development applications that show the construction of that garage, so it's a pre-existing structure.
So we don't know how the roof lines aligned between the carport and that?
I don't have any photographs.
No idea, okay.
From before it was torn down. I don't know if it aligned with the carport roof or if it was a little bit lower.
But the new
It was
garage
flat.
must be larger than the original because they're requesting two variances.
Well, in 19...
Well, because they tore it down and are reconstructing it, they have to
Right.
get the variances.
So in 1999, they got a variance to expand the garage to the west and to the south. That's what it says in your report.
Right. So they had to
it's
get
larger than it was previously to 1999.
That was authorized, in other words.
That's
It was
right. Yeah,
approved.
yeah.
They never constructed that addition, though.
And
Oh, so it was never constructed.
They were going to put a pool in there.
But that hasn't been vacated, their variance is still in effect, right?
Well, if they didn't,
because
if they never acted on it, it expired.
Right.
It expires, yeah. Variances
Oh, expired, okay. But essentially what they're asking for now is the same variances, same size, but a different roof, one that's more visible, a gable roof instead of a flat roof.
That's right.
Okay.
So,
Okay, it looks like on the Google Earth view from above, it looks like it's showing the old roof, and it looks like there's a parapet around the old garage roof and a parapet around this was shot before whatever demolition.
Yeah,
was
before they
taken
took it
place.
down, but it's a flat roof and it's
Right.
just, okay.
Right, and it looks like it ties in terms of elevation with the existing carport.
Tom, do you have a report?
I do.
And you can see it in the
Yeah.
aerial in the planning report as well, that parapet that John just mentioned.
So Tom, why don't you go over your report,
Sure.
please?
So I said the north and south projecting eaves of the garage that they are proposing shall be eliminated
Look at that.
to avoid any encroachments onto the adjacent properties. The applicant shall consider the installation of, again, leader sleeves, an underground storm sewer to control runoff onto the adjacent property. The garage door shall be designed to appear like a pair of swinging doors with traditional Z or X bracing over the one that they're proposing. I had a question about the roof material and siding material. It's not stated on the drawings. And a typical comment of detailed specifications, cut sheet, manufacturer's product information for the proposed doors, and any lighting shall be provided to the HPC for review.
Okay. So being we have nobody to question, why don't we send this to the zoning board? And then the second to last comment be the material for roof should be specified.
Okay.
Roof material should be specified. Is there any other thing that we want to send in addition?
In terms of the roof material specifications, what are our comments to the board? Like what?
If this was coming to us before someone started building it illegally,
Yeah.
we would comment on this, that this garage should be an extension of this carport. It looked like it all blends together. Not have this new peak that now you see from the street for this. So I would say this garage should blend into the, be part of the existing carport in terms of.
Yeah, we don't know the reason why they decided to go to a gable roof. I mean, what is the use?
Right, especially
It actually lowers the interior space based on what I see here, so.
And the applicant's not here to ask that question.
But we should still recommend it.
recommend
Yeah,
it.
we
It
should
should
still
be
recommend it.
blend in.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's quite frankly, it's a mess. I think it's the one thing we could suggest, just to blend it together. I realize they built it already, so they're not gonna be happy about redoing the roof, but they should.
Have they already put the roof
Well,
on?
it didn't look like they did the roof.
The roof's up. They're gonna have to.
Looks like
They're
they
probably
have
gonna have to tear the
beginning of
eaves off anyway.
Yeah, and
Some space
if it's
next
tar, they haven't put the shingle. It's probably just framed, so they can modify it.
Okay, so the second to last point will be roof shape. Roof shape should
Tie
be,
into the existing.
tie into the
carport.
existing carport.
Right.
All right.
And should we specify flat roof versus gable?
Yeah,
Say that, yeah.
It's just, it's not really flat, it's a slightly, very slightly sloping.
Slope.
Yeah, and it
sloping
should
roof.
drain towards their property, not the next door neighbor's property.
Yeah, that's probably, or into it, yeah, they're right on the line. huh?
Right.
So how many points are there, Tommy? 5 or 6?
It was 5 in my memo.
Right.
Yeah. So I just basically said all of Tom's recommendations plus that one about the roof.
Okay.
Did you catch Mr. Rooney's comment about the water draining into their property and not the adjacent properties?
I did not.
Yeah.
That is in the planning report, but I can put that in here as well.
Yeah.
And the comment, Tom, you touched on that the eaves that extend now onto the other
Yes,
property.
that should happen regardless
Yeah.
of what roof shape they go with.
Right, all right. Do we specify that, or is that a zoning?
That's already in Tom's.
Tom's
That's one of
right.
the, and
Okay.
I imagine the Board of Adjustment will require them to do that.
Okay,
They're gonna be pretty strict.
all right, we're all set with that? Okay. All right, thank you, Tom. All right, moving on, now we have the Lackawanna Plaza redevelopment discussion.
So I sent this to you all after the packets went out, but I printed and put up on the dais everyone's comments that submitted. I think everybody submitted comments, just put together in one document, and then Tom's comments in his document as well. So you have both of those up there.
So I thought the way we would handle this, you've got Tommy's comments. I wanted to read a statement, and then I think what we'll do is we'll go through everybody's comments and then make a list of what will be in the resolution.
Well, one thing on that, Chair, I just want to just give everybody kind of a sense of, Board Member Carmel Loffman and myself and Kevin Pierre, we drafted the initial Planning Board report, and I just wanted to give you a sense of how we structured it. This may be subject to change as it goes now to a second committee. I was originally on that second committee to do revisions, and I swapped places with another member. But essentially, the way we structured it was we did a finding, and we explained what topic we were discussing, and then we commented whether it conformed with the master plan or not. And then we provided some supporting comments after that determination. So I don't know if we want to similarly try and draft our memo that way, or if we want to do something a little bit different. I think that's fine. But I just wanted to give you a sense of what we were starting on the planning board. And I think everybody is aware that our timing is that everything has to be submitted by the planning board by February 4th. So I think we want to give sufficient time for the entire planning board to review this report prior to incorporating it into the larger submission to the council.
Thank you. So we've been here before, 4 years ago,
Yeah.
and I have the resolution that we had from last time.
So I could have saved a lot of time and just not made that comment. You could have saved me.
No, but it sounds just what you.
Similar to that? Okay,
similar
great.
to what you've discussed.
Terrific, okay.
So, did we send this out to everybody?
I think it was included in in maybe the December packet.
Okay.
I don't think it was sent with this packet.
Okay. Okay, but it was sent out, so
Yes.
you've had a chance to look at this. So, so let me just start with my comment, which is the HPC supports the development of the Lackawanna Plaza train station site. However, development must be undertaken in a sensitive and realistic manner, which speaks to the development of the site as a train transportation hub created in the 19th century. This is the most historic site within the township, so I was very surprised, as I think everyone else was, that the current plan that we have, which we reviewed at our last meeting, hardly mentioned its historic significance to the township. The additional three designations should be included in the plan on page 8.8, which is the article is under context, including the map of the historic site as recognized on the New Jersey GIS online viewer site created by the New Jersey Department of SHPO, Historic Preservation Office. And I passed that out at our last meeting, but I have a copy of it here as well, which I'll pass around. The redevelopment of Lackawanna Plaza train station was presented to the township recently in a different version, very recently, as many of the colleagues that are up here can attest to. In 2018, the site was deemed one of the most endangered historic sites of New Jersey, nominated by Preservation New Jersey. At that time, a letter was written to the chairman of the planning board, which was also sent to the town council. If I might read these two paragraphs that were authored by Preservation New Jersey. A Lackawanna Station, a Beaux-Arts revival building completed in 1913 and listed on the National Register of Historic Places, 1973, is a key structure in Montclair's Town Center Historic District. The demolition of approximately two-thirds of the original 1918 train sheds is of great concern. Not only is the proposal not in keeping with the overall goals of the township's master plan or those of the historic preservation element, it is short-sighted and lacks the innovative spirit necessary to produce a successful adaptive reuse project. Similar train shed properties have been celebrated and interpreted such that they are an asset to the overall development, making these properties destinations for residents and visitors alike. Think of Philadelphia's Reading Terminal, San Francisco's Ferry Building, and more. There appears to be no structural deficiency or barrier other than the lack of creativity and or will on the part of the developer to implement a similar adaptive reuse project at the Lackawanna site. Preservation New Jersey therefore encourages the planning board to positively regard the Montclair Historic Preservation Commission's recommendations, which will not only save the train sheds, but have them become a focal point of the development. This is a watershed moment for historic preservation in Montclair's Central Business District. An innovative and respectful adaptive reuse of Lackawanna Station, inclusive of the train sheds, could be an economic catalyst for a reuse of Lackawanna for this prominent site. Capitulating to a recycling approach, however, is irreversible. Once demolished, this iconic feature of the downtown will be lost forever. We're all from someplace, a place that is special meaning to us, but those some places are being lost, torn down, destroyed, and are becoming any place. They look just the same as anywhere else. Please keep Montclair Central Business District from becoming just another any place. And I wanted to read that because it's we're looking at the same type of development as we were 3 years ago. Tonight, we are tasked with compiling the HPC's recommendations. We will go through each commissioner's and our historic preservation's consultants' comments to create a resolution which will be sent to the planning board. We will be working from the development plan dated October 2022, as we have not seen a revised plan, correct? Nothing has come that's been revised. We'll be considering if this plan is consistent with the historic preservation element of the master plan dated 2016. So I just want to go back to the comments that I think that considering that this is the most historic site in Montclair, that the omission of the historic designations is really paramount to doing something that isn't really looking to adaptive reuse and really destroying the whole the site as the of the original train station. And the other thing which I thought was interesting, on page 35, it mentions that the planning department has learned of the concerns of the HPC, but there's been no dialogue between us and with the current plan. All of the things that are in this current plan, I think, are holdovers from what happened 4 years ago. So I'd just like to make that comment. So having said that, why don't we start with the recommendations? And I said already that, I've just said that the 4 designations should be included on page 8, I believe it is, and include the map, which is here, this map, which is on the New Jersey Department of SHPO, Historic Preservation Office, which shows the historic site as we talked about last time, and includes an overlay of the development site. So I'd like to see this included in the report.
In the report or the redevelopment plan?
Well, in our report to go
okay.
into the redevelopment
Okay.
plan, that it should be in that. Yes, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so-
In our report to the redevelopment plan.
No, I mean, like, are we suggesting that this is an appendix to the redevelopment plan, or we synthesize this and put it within the text of the redevelopment plan?
I think it should be in the
Okay.
text of the redevelopment plan.
We should
yeah.
reference, we should explain it and then attach it, right?
Right.
Right? I mean, I think that, I agree.
Because it certainly shows the historic, it gives you the sense of where the train station, was. And even though the eastern part might be sacrificed to, for more dense, higher building, at least it shows you where the tracks were. And we talked about that as far as the last time where the historic site was. All right, so the next thing that I wrote was about the new site plan as presented is not compatible with the existing historic site and structures. And then I gave those are my remarks. But before that, which we did the last time at our last meeting, is we identified the existing historic features that should be within our report, that should be included within the plan, which was included in the 2018 plan. Have you looked at that in the planning board?
We did discuss it briefly. They wanted to see our report first. I did note specifically, though, that all those elements need to receive the protection that they shall be protected, not
Right.
should be protected. And we did list all the elements that we discussed.
Okay, and those elements would be the waiting room ticket office, the terminal shed, which is on Lackawanna Plaza, the train platform sheds, which are the steel stanchions with the concrete roofs, which constitute the butterfly sheds, which line the original track, and these were preserved in the 1980s mall complex. Number 4 is the horse trough. Number 5 is the reinforced concrete stairs. And number 6 are the lighting columns, which define the perimeter entrances and exits of the site. Also is the view shed, which was defined, you questioned that, and Tom gave us a definition of historic features and structures, especially the waiting room. And the one thing that we need to we need to discuss is whether or not the dome on the east side should be preserved as a historic structure. And I know Mike and Jason, you had comments on that last time. So what is your rationale for that?
Because it is part of the history of the site, its development over the course of its lifespan. It's a pretty grand structure, and I think it should be preserved as part of the history and the development of Montclair.
And as we had discussed, Chair, it marks the changing of the site from a transit hub to a commercial center, and also calls out a period where, malls were gaining popularity in the 80s. They were a gathering place. As a child of the 80s, gathered at a few malls, and I think it marks a specific period of history that perhaps, maybe it's 40 years old now, and 50 years is typically our purview, but 50 years from now, I think people might find that little bit of history worth noting.
Compelling.
Yeah.
Compelling. I find it compelling now.
I think
The
it's
true
very-
historic character was the
Yeah.
train station. That was a conversion, and in terms of the significance of history, you got to say the dome is less significant.
Without question, less
It
significant. But it is to the site, though, Jerry, I think, a significant demarcation point.
That goes to whether these are all shall preserve or should
Yes.
preserve. And I think we would appear to be excess if we say all of them shall be preserved.
Oh, I agree, and that one I would be willing to concede should, and it would be hurtful to see it go. But that's understandable. I completely agree with you, though, that really the historic resources that the chair listed are the most important to be preserved, without question. Yeah.
And those are the ones in 1 through 6, or is the view shed
The view
considered?
shed included, which is 7. The view shed.
That's what I'm saying, it's 1 through 7 are the shall,
Yes.
and the 8 is a should.
Well, actually, the dome should be, in the entire, I think the entire historic site, which is the mapping of this, should be
Identified. Yeah.
but not, obviously it can't be preserved.
Yeah.
So we'll say identified, all right. John, we haven't heard from you about the dome.
Oh, I don't know. I think, to me, I keep going back to this idea of, history tells a story to some, you look at the site and you begin to understand things. The site tells a story. It does tell the story that you guys are suggesting that it had a history here. And I think based on that, I can buy into that. I don't think it's nearly as important as the original train station stanchions and so on, but I could buy into that.
May I ask Mr. Conley his opinion?
So access, the way they were proposing access from Grove down to the lower levels on either side, right? They were putting in new stairs, I think, and the stairs that they were proposing were somewhat in the general location where they were historically, but not in the same configuration. So I don't know how they're planning on circulating. I don't think.
We're talking about the dome.
Yeah, I understand, but right now that connects underneath Grove, right? I don't think they were proposing to do that in the plan, right? So that dome really has no.
You think the dome is off-center from where?
No, I'm just saying it's not going to have a function in their plan.
Tom, I thought they were keeping the tunnel, and that they were gonna use it as access to that art park there on the Essex
tunnel.
easement, and then the other side would get to, like, they would take that tunnel to get to, I don't know if it would connect to the supermarket, but it would certainly connect to the other side of the site, the plaza.
Because there were two plazas.
If that's what they're proposing to do, then I would say yes,
That's right,
keep it.
yeah.
And I
But they were
think
also
that's one of the
proposing to put
strong points.
stairs in,
Yeah.
which were, if you were gonna do it, I would put them back the way they were, but
Yeah.
they're proposing to alter them in a different configuration.
All right, so the dome is a should be retained.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
Or-
should,
I guess,
should,
yeah.
as
Not
opposed to
shall.
shall. So the first 7 will be shall.
Right.
That's what's,
Yep.
and that's actually what's in this resolution, prior resolution. So I won't go over my comments after that, because it's I looked at this through the prism of the Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, which says that the historic character of a property such as Lackawanna Plaza Railroad Terminal be maintained and any new work be compatible to the materials, size, scale, and proportion of the historic property, which is really what Mr. Conley's report.
Yeah, I think the view shed is really important here. So looking at the station now, right, with their proposed building behind it, really
Right.
alters the view of the station.
Should we talk about Building A right now, the building that abuts the station? Because I
Building
think
A or Building C?
A is extremely problematic. I know we were talking about the view sheds, and maybe Building C would be, I'd be willing to talk about either one.
Building A, I think, is a problem, and C.
Okay, so Tommy, are you taking really good notes?
Yeah, so far, they're all in here already.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when we
All
go
right.
through this for Tommy's benefit, let's identify what
Right.
comments we're talking about and whether those are comments that we want to keep. That way he can just cross stuff out, check it off, and that's what goes into the report.
I have a procedural question. Who is actually preparing this report?
You and I.
Okay. Okay, I wasn't sure about that, so.
Okay. No, but we have a good
Guideline.
right here. All right, so, but wait, before we do that, why don't we go through the general,
Sure.
which of the general comments, and then, because I think some of the general comments go back to this. But should we just continue on mine? All right. So the new site is presented in the Lackawanna Plaza redevelopment plan is not compatible with the existing historic site and structures. The waiting room, terminal shed, train sheds, and horse trough are obliterated by the sheer overscale of the proposed buildings, which it's, overscale. Proposed building C on the corner of Bloomfield and Grove totally destroys the sight line to the historic waiting room and the first row of train sheds, which are to be incorporated into the facade of Building A. It was noted by the township's architectural expert that the concrete roofs of the butterfly sheds probably would not survive relocation. The north facade of the historic waiting room ticket office is not visible as presented and appears to be consumed by the facade of Building A. As this is the most important historic building on the site, more consideration should be shown to feature the unique facade. The corner between the terminal shed and the waiting room is not fully realized. There's no pedestrian access between these two important historic structures as there was originally. That goes to your point about Building A. The original steel stanchions and the tile roof of the terminal shed should be showcased to appreciate the design and workmanship of the original. And I think there isn't enough clarification that this will remain as its own feature, its own structure. It almost seems as though it's going to be built over. I mean, we don't really.
We don't have clarity on that. They said that Ms. Talley at our last planning board meeting stated that they will protect those. They're going to remove those glass bubbles. They're going to protect though the stanchions at the head of the tracks and the structure in the corner. I think it's the northwest corner that exists there. But it appears that it's going to be just as you noted, Chair, built over by Building A and swallowed by it. So I don't know how they propose to keep the context of what that site currently is and what it means to this station.
And that's a point, because we could say that whatever new building be constructed behind it or to the east of it.
Yeah,
And
I
that stands
agree.
on its own.
I agree, and I think, but I think the current plan, they discussed using that area for parking, so I think they're trying to maximize the space
Right.
behind, so I don't know if they're going to agree to that. It looks like they're trying to gain as much parking space behind the station, which seems like the wrong place for it, because you're creating this bulk that, swallows whole. The station subordinates it to Building A, makes it, less important than the new building. It doesn't make sense.
Can I ask an overall question?
Yeah.
Is it our observation that the overall plan does not preserve the historic character of the site?
I think so, Mr. Sweeney. I thought you spoke eloquently about that in your notes here. I agreed very much with what you wrote, and yes, I agree that it does not
Okay, I
preserve
think
the
you have
character.
to start up front
Yeah.
and that, and we get through the
Yeah.
general details.
Well, I thought we'd go through everybody's comments, and then we'd have we'll have an agreement, but I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right.
I thought you spoke very eloquently as well about building heights with the various structures as well. Yeah.
And then the other comment was about Station Plaza will be in shadow for the entire day if surrounded by three sides and Grove Street overpass to the east. And then there was what, Mr. Sweeney, you spoke about this consideration of the surrounding neighborhood and how that related to the current plan. You asked some pointed questions of the consultant. The connection, the spatial relationship to the fabric of the surrounding neighborhood is not evident in the proposed design.
And I think since we're on Building A and the historic waiting room, Jason, you'd mentioned about no connection to Crane Park, and
Right.
that's not addressed either. They're cutting off.
We probably could go through this report of all the comments and just identify the things we disagree with.
Right.
Because, you're going to write a report,
Yeah.
and I think some of it we stated a different way, but we all had the same
Yeah, when I
overall
was looking
sense.
through the comments.
Yeah.
It's-
So,
you could, right.
90% was the same.
yeah, so we
type of
just
observation.
blended
Well, that's-
together, but maybe,
Right.
I was just thinking as an efficient way of approaching, is that what don't we agree with in here? And I think the first thing we did is should and shall on that dome building.
Right.
And that's some of the things we have to do, because we have to show we're trying to be realistic too.
Should we hit some of the highlights first, though, and then get,
Yeah,
like,
and
for example, I'm very adamant that,
Where are you?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to step on
No,
your
no, no, go
momentum,
ahead.
Chair.
Just tell us where you are.
There's just, I'm on page, my notes is point 9.
Okay.
I found the section VA1, it proposed other actions that may need to be undertaken to implement the redevelopment plan may include the clearance of dilapidated, deteriorated, obsolete, or underutilized structures or uses, provisions for public infrastructure necessary to service and support new development, and vacation of easements as may be necessary for redevelopment. I just wanted to make sure that we say that any such action that impacts a historic resource shall require Historic Preservation Commission oversight.
I think that's good. All right.
Okay.
And you also mentioned about these metal railings, which are,
That we saw when we
Right.
walked the sites, and I guess I wanted everyone's opinion on whether we should make that a should adaptively reuse.
well, that could be underneath what you just wrote.
Yeah.
Because they might use that on a different, that I think could be easily moved, those railings.
Easily,
Because
right, yeah.
it's not original placement.
It's not
Exactly.
original placement, and we're not sure if it's original.
Right, it looks like it's-
site. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but I think
Okay.
that could go under what you just read about accessory.
For example.
Right.
The accessory, okay.
All right, what else, Mike, that we haven't Oh, number 3. We addressed number 1, number 2, number 3, about the east buildings, which John had pointed out.
That's more of a planning board, that gets into the overall bulk of this, that's the less historical part of
Right.
this.
Yeah.
True, and we were trying, we suggested that section, that demarcation point between the two buildings, D and E, become public space.
Real public space.
Real public space, open to the public.
The public.
Yes, with playground. Like, we figured that would be a reasonable area to place a playground, and it's off the street and away from, Bloomfield Avenue, and allow it, to enhance the 20%.
I just want to throw this out there. I've been following, Westfield is undergoing the similar redevelopment scheme,
Yeah.
which is very large within the town center. And two of the things that they've suggested for public space use is a dog run and a community garden. I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, not that we, it's just.
Community garden part,
Yeah, not here, but I mean, but the planning board, when you talk about it. I mean,
Additional, we are discussing additional amenities and open space uses.
Okay, all right. So the east side buildings and we do say.
But can we, oh, I'm sorry, Chair.
No, but I mean, that goes to the point where it's not compatible to the surrounding neighborhood.
And I was going to say, shouldn't we give our opinion that it's overwhelming the existing neighborhood, right?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
It changes, as you said, Jerry, it changes the character. So you wrote about that in your notes.
Right, changes the character.
Everyone wrote about it. I mean, it's just.
True, yeah.
I just tried to explain it out.
I thought you expressed yourself well.
But that building that is, the building on the east side, it looks like an institutional building more than anything else, because by its
really
mass and everything. But I don't think we should use words that sound insulting.
Agreed.
We have to be, we have to say it in a nice way that relates in some way to historical precedent.
And we also have to say that if the stanchions, there's still questions to whether removal of the stanchions would require demolition of a historic element that requires a permit, and would that trigger our further review? So would that be in the?
My opinion is none of this needs to be moved. The
Mhm.
stanchions don't need to be moved.
No.
The waiting room doesn't need to be moved.
The horse-
The view,
Right.
all of that. If someone really getting into it, I think they can solve all those things within whatever massing they have to create to get X amount of square footage on the site. But there's no reason that they have to move anything. That's my opinion about
Anything.
And almost,
Yeah,
All that
everything.
stuff can be.
It's
left
been,
in
it was
place.
used before in
Right.
a grocery store. It can be used again in some creative way. It doesn't need to be moved.
and the stanchions were when we walked the site, it appeared to be in excellent
I
shape.
think I sent those pictures to
Yeah.
everybody. You
Yeah,
saw those.
I've been through that.
Right.
Mm-hmm, you did.
Right. All right, then we go to number 6, which is Building C, which is the building on the corner here. So do we suggest, or do we say that that building be removed to maintain? Somebody, one of the public sent me a proposal that the building be moved, and he felt that if this building were just moved a bit to the west, and occupies the main plaza, that the sight line to the historic waiting room would be maintained.
I feel like that makes it worse.
That
Yeah.
just makes it worse.
That's what I thought too. I didn't know if that,
They can move it across
This
the
gets
street.
into where you put the massing on the site again.
right,
I would almost say kill C and put
Yeah.
that square footage, spread that square footage. First of all, it's all too big, but if it has to go back up to kill C.
Kill C.
Right.
I think that's.
Okay.
That kills the horse trough, that kills the view of the stanchions going towards Grove Street.
Right.
It kills the view going towards the waiting, you know.
I mean,
Yeah, you
as
can't
much
see it.
as it physically pains me to say, the parking lot in that area is the historic use of that site. It's always been a parking lot.
Which
And-
was important to Montclair, right? The
Yeah.
suburban character of Montclair, that
and it-
parking lot.
As much as I hate parking lots.
Are we talking about building A now? Is that-
We're talking about building
We're-
C.
Here.
Oh,
That
you're
just
saying that,
entire
oh, that's
open
where the
space.
parking was.
Stay open
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that the waiting room is the focal point. And in turn, like John said, we just redistribute the massing.
Yeah.
And, you know, what I was kind of thinking, and with this, I guess, goes to building A as well, we already have a large footprint where the train sheds were enclosed and the addition for the supermarket is, so there is, you know, a precedent of there being, you know, low scale, large footprint. Maintaining a 20 to 30 foot pedestal and then just building higher and very narrow so that we can,
In this location,
yeah.
but, which means taking out the, what they're calling the station plaza.
No.
No, just
Just
eliminating,
I don't understand the two plazas. That
yeah,
makes no sense.
eliminating
They make no
C,
sense.
having one plaza, and then in those rear buildings, you know, after you get up to the third story, just letting it go higher and narrower, instead of just having these 8-story brick blobs that kind of just encapsulate, you know, kind of what I was thinking was, again, this is not at all to scale, but this concept where you have a historic building and then towers that kind of fade into the skyline.
Right.
You know, this is Manhattan and
Oh.
Grand
Yeah.
Central. So you get that bulk, but it's not like oppressive on top of the historic building.
But don't you
What would
need
happen to building C then?
No, the building, he's talking about building A, I think, just not
Oh, you're talking
jumping
about A.
straight up.
Eliminate
Wall
C.
right against.
So
Eliminate
three
C.
and then just a
Yeah, but-
narrower
but-
tower,
yeah,
eliminate C.
move it back a
And
little
even do
bit.
the same thing with E and D, where you have the pedestal
Yeah.
and then taller but much narrower towers. So it kind of maintains that historic downtown feel, but then you've got, you know, above the human scale sight line, you know, when you're on the sidewalk, your eye level is not going to necessarily be up at the 10th floor. You're going to really see the second, third story. And then if that narrow tower is set back more, it's really not going to be as oppressive.
So as an alternative to eliminating building C, is it possible to just substantially reduce the base dimensions? Make it a taller, thinner building? Is that a possibility?
I think C still cuts
I
your
think,
sight
I
line.
think C, I think C
Location.
should just get eliminated.
Yeah, I think.
And then we add more
Incorporated into
height
B.
to the other towers and narrow them.
So then, that brings us to Station Plaza. Eliminate that as well?
No, keep
No.
it there. There's no reason
Absolutely
why there shouldn't just be one plaza.
Right, okay. Well, it's not a plaza, it's not open now.
It's not open now, but
Oh, that could be that's a
That
huge
would be-
amenity.
That would be a huge amenity, and
That would be great.
That would give strong, it would require, it could be a reason to
Yeah.
permit more heights, is if you were to allow that much open space,
and it can be
that much open, yeah.
because we're getting
for
all
public
that in the
use.
front. It could be narrowed to here, so you still
Right.
have the connection.
Right.
So
Get
you can bring
ground
building
more,
A
right,
out a little bit
right,
more.
right. Keep that on-grade circulation, which I think really gets you from one side, side of the
Through
site
the
to the
tunnel,
other.
right.
That doesn't exist now,
Yep.
so I
Right.
agree with that, and that's a good idea. Shift that, some of that.
And then keeping the stanchions in the original place and building on top, over.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's there now. I mean,
Right.
I realize.
build
it-
up higher.
You have to work on it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just not like you mow it down and move them over here
No, you don't have
and
to
bring
do
on
that at all.
the train. I thought some of Tom's comments about creating this Disneyland sort of.
Well, it's true, yeah.
It sort of, misses the whole point of.
Okay, so we've gone through yours then, Mike?
I think so, yeah.
Steve, a randomly placed only size being determined. There's no, so we're talking about,
The scale is off.
right, which I think we're all in agreement with.
Right.
Yes.
And the no relation between the head house, which is the
Head
ticket-
house, the stanchions, nothing.
Right,
They destroyed that.
right.
The horse trough.
The
should be able
distributed
to-
monuments.
Yeah,
Right.
horse trough, leave it where it is, actually.
And you also agree in number .9 that raising the height,
Yeah.
if we can get lower on the west side.
Mhm.
Is there anything in there that we're really discussing everything together. Is there anything, and your points that you feel need to be broken out for discussion?
No.
I have one quick question on the horse trough, because my recollection of the last plan.
They were gonna move it, keep it on the
No,
west side.
Yeah, but before, when the old plan that was discussed, and it actually went to site plan, they said that the current location was not the original location. Is that accurate?
No.
No.
Yeah, it's still in the original
It's still in the
location.
original.
I believe it
Nobody
is,
would-
yep.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, no.
It was
that
over
would
by
have
the
been-
tracks.
Yeah, no, they were gonna pull it out and
Mm-hmm.
bring it closer to the Pig and Prince. So John,
I don't have anything to add, I don't think, to what we've said already, which is, I would leave everything in place.
right,
I'm not sure about the concrete.
butterfly sheds?
The shed itself, but the stanchions, that's,
They're all
I'm
in
not sure
great
what kind of
shape.
condition they're really in, but
They're actually in pretty good
they're in
shape.
pretty good condition. Rob?
I mean, it's the roof above it
Yeah.
is wood.
Why can't they be restored or even reconstructed?
Yeah,
They can be.
yeah.
Well, they all need to be examined.
Yeah.
Each one
So-
needs to be examined.
But there's no
But I agree,
rust
there's no reason that it can't all be incorporated.
Right,
So-
there's
So
no-
that you can come to the site,
Imagine
see
what was there.
imagine what was there. I realize some of it's gonna get built into something else, and some of it's gonna be half in, half out, but you should be able to read what,
Right.
that imprint of what was there.
And you should be
So-
able to see it from Lackawanna Plaza all the way through the
Right,
site,
Right,
and from Bloomfield north.
yeah.
Should be able to see it, how it was used.
Which means that if the stanchions remain, that whole facade, it would be really cool if it was glass.
Yeah.
And then,
Yep.
That's where you get,
You-
there's
the
all sorts
design
of
and-
great opportunities.
Right.
which is
Usually,
really cool.
the first
you know?
stanchion or a few stanchions could be open,
right,
Yeah.
you
right.
know?
I can tell you, I was just before the Sites Council for a project we're working on in Princeton, and view sheds are really important. You absolutely cannot alter them.
Right.
Well, it's impossible really to alter them, right? I mean, you
I mean,
can
you
alter
can,
them,
you can,
but
but
it doesn't
they really
maintain
look,
the
they
view
really look at
shed.
view sheds. View
Right.
sheds are super important to
Right.
their review of any proposed project.
So maybe we should move view shed up to number 1 on the,
Yeah,
on
because I
the
think that
structures,
lets them know that we don't want C,
right,
A should be changed to incorporate the view sheds.
right,
So,
okay. And Jason, you got very specific. So, page 15, which,
I put the text on that one because it was a little bit more complicated.
right,
So for comment number 1, changing their vision statement, those are the modifications that I wanted to implement.
I like that.
yeah, and it definitely has to be the site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you lose, it narrows it down.
Great
It becomes
point, yeah.
So
Into the
constrictive.
building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then page 15, where are you on?
So page 15, where they have like all those different goals and objective bullet
Right.
points, this would be a new bullet point that we would add to that. And that would be,
But rather than
requiring
the unified plan, it would be the historic preservation element of the master plan. Wouldn't it?
Unless, were you talking about the unified land use and circulation?
Yeah.
plan? It says that in there.
Mhm. Oh, no, the unified plan, because I think this redevelopment plan.
References.
It uses unified plan in terms of sites the east and the west.
Oh.
So that's a callback to the plan itself. Like, this plan requires
So the
preservation.
redevelopment plan.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, because the HP element of the master plan, which isn't referenced at all in this, there are 6 points: preservation and protection of historic fabric, promotion of sustainability through retention of historic buildings, existing historic buildings, cultivation of civic appreciation of the township architectural, social, cultural history, safeguarding the township's distinctive visual character through the retention of existing resources, and encouragement of contextually appropriate new design that contributes to a sense of cohesiveness and meets the township needs as a growing community. I was going to say, have that, keep that in the resolution, but should that also be incorporated, ask them to put that into the plan?
Just referencing because this specific section, and it does, for some reason, they say the unified plan.
Right.
If you look at, this is basically the vision statement for this redevelopment plan.
Okay.
And what I wanted is an additional one that directly addresses, in its own terms, the
Right.
historic elements.
Okay,
So
no,
that's
I
what this,
agree.
that's what this
I agree.
bullet point does.
Right, but then where do we reference the historic preservation element of the master?
I mean, that could go in page 35, 35, where it's the section on the historic elements specifically.
Right.
Kathleen, were you just, the 6 points you read, what are those? Are they the goals?
Those are for page 97 of the HP element of the master plan.
What are
What's
those
that from?
6 things?
This
Oh,
is
it's from the old,
original.
it's from the old resolution.
It's from the old resolution.
What are the 6 points called, though? Objectives, goals?
They're called relevant preservation objectives from the historic preservation element of the master plan. And you're right, Jason's right, they should go in on page 35 or 36. But I think we need to mention the historic preservation element somewhere up front. I mean, this has been written.
It can go in the master plan consistency review.
What pages, where's that? Master plan recommendations? No.
Let me go to the table of contents.
What's on page 92?
I mean, goals and objections, shouldn't it be overall, around page 15? Aren't we?
I thought there was a
Consistency reviews on page 92.
Oh, okay. I thought there was something earlier.
I
where they
think it
addressed
should be
master
earlier,
plan.
like, more up front. Well,
On page 14?
yeah, like 14 or 15. Sounds good. No, 14.
Yeah, because they're talking about
Because
the,
their relationship to, the
master
zoning.
plan.
The ordinance, but,
No, it's not the ordinance.
well,
It's-
that's what 14 is, relationship to Montclair zoning ordinance.
Right, but isn't it overall? like goals and objectives?
I-
To respect the historic preservation element of the master plan?
Yeah, no, Steve's right, because the master plan consistency review, that's all the way in page 92, and that's where it
All
would
right.
go.
Okay, so add that to, I'm writing
Mhm.
it, page
Mhm.
92. All right.
Page
Um,
92.
So then you were very specific about page 16,
Yeah, there's just some
replace reflect
language.
with complement. We can do that, put
Mhm.
that in the resolution. Page 16, the eighth bullet point, under, which one is that under? 2, design. No, which one, you have
2C.
C.
Yeah.
Preservation, adaptive reuse.
Show, is I would kill the last part of what you said there,
Okay.
Jason. We're not saying to the extent possible.
Right.
Saying-
Yeah, I think it's more direct the way it's written.
Is recommended to the extent possible.
Recommend to the extent possible is,
Preservation and adaptive reuse of historic features and structures on the site is recommended to the extent possible. That's what I wanted to change, because it sounds pretty kind of wishy-washy, like it's just a suggestion.
Yeah, possible.
how about
Could
it's
be anything.
required?
Well, it says it's required in certain instances and recommended to the extent possible in other circumstances, and that goes to page 34, where we talk about the specific elements that have to be preserved in place, and then the other ones
Oh,
that
I see.
should be preserved. So since these are all just the high-level bullet points of design,
Right.
this should call out what we're specifically
Okay.
requiring later on in the plan.
And now that you've explained it, I understand what you're saying. Okay. Does anyone have any objection to that? All right. Page 17. Encourage building design.
Yeah, it's not really a historic comment,
Right.
but it wasn't really addressed enough in the plan. And to the extent that we're talking about a signature development, the most prominent site, we should have something in there to make sure it's sustainable and they're not doing major modifications or.
And actually, that speaks to, I sent this out today, statewide historic preservation plan that was just released by the state, and they talk about sustainable in here, so that, because I was going to take issue with that it's not really part of our purview, but now that the state's on that,
Yep.
it is. Okay. Okay, and then what you're doing.
26 is just about remassing,
Yeah.
creating the opportunity to change the massing to accomplish other things, so.
Do we
So-
want that in the memo, the idea of creating like narrower, taller buildings overall versus just?
In exchange
In
for
exchange, yes.
significant enhancements in open space, removal of building C. So it would be, it would have to be a compelling reason,
Yeah.
and those would be compelling reasons.
So this is the trade-off in
Yeah.
order to preserve the view shed, which I think is our primary concern.
Right.
Giving them more height so that we can narrow the buildings and eliminate some of those, and eliminate building C.
And so the idea is to take building C out altogether, but then the redistribution of that massing will be in the form of like narrow, tall structures?
Yep.
Okay, okay. So we want to use this language then? Okay.
What are we up to?
That was 6.
That was 6.
And then 7 is the pedestrian connection to Crane Park. we
Right,
talked
which is
about.
a few people. That's under circulation. And so it's an additional bullet point.
Where's that?
Number 7.
7, meaningful pedestrian. Yeah, that would be a new bullet point.
All right. Oh, sorry. And then, okay.
Number
so-
8, we already addressed. Those are just the different elements. The only thing that I added was just the question about, if we know whether the historic railroad tracks are still there, if they were just covered.
Well, that would go to Mike's point about any additional,
Yeah.
if they uncover anything else that
That we
should-
need to, it requires our oversight.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so let me just write that as the going to somewhere else, moving, and then shall be preserved, waiting room, and, so a couple of people.
I think we went over all that.
Right.
Because you went through all of them.
Right, and then a couple of you wrote about retractable bollards, which is a good idea, but is that something that we?
No.
I mean, we can make the recommendation.
We could, I mean, there are recommendations.
And they have talked about, I know we talked about in the planning board having retractable bollards to block cars from going into the main plaza when it's full or when it's closed off for public use.
So should we add that as well? And that'd be just to.
I'm open to the suggestion, but it's up, I'd like to hear other people's opinions.
Anyone else have?
I think the retractable bollards allows that space to flow in different ways at different times
Yeah.
and not really get in the way of certain types of items. Flexibility is always good.
Before we get to Tom, Jerry, I don't have your comments with me. Oh,
I thought that I had put his comments into this document, but
oh,
maybe I.
did I?
And the
No, 'cause I don't see it
amended
either.
document, then I had my comment.
I think we have, I think this one is the older version, so, yeah.
Oh, okay, I printed the wrong one. But the one that I sent to you guys.
You emailed it to us, yeah.
Okay, good, okay. Yeah, so I don't have your comments in front of me, Jerry.
I sent it to everyone, and then Tom combined it and sent it out.
okay, so you speak about the out of scale and proportionate to the historic scale of the Montclair Town Center, which is what we've all agreed upon. Redistributing or replacement of other historic across the plan area might not save Calypso's principally decorations. So that's to Tom's point, which things shouldn't be used as sort of a Disneyland effect, right? That, which is, and then, now, we're saying that the historic character of the central business district defined by buried and lowered height. So, and maintaining general lower building heights is important. But now we're talking about trading off.
And trade it off. No, my main point is they've always recognized you can have a distinction in the redevelopment zone, but they've never looked at the scale of the difference between the two adjacent areas. So that's where I made points about how it ought not to be so out of scale. But I do like the idea of a taller, thinner building. It may be more distinctive, and it does allow more visual effect as well as more public space. So, but I still think it's really grossly out of scale with all the rest of the buildings surrounding it and with the downtown. So.
Do you have another sheet to this? Right, okay, sorry.
Yeah,
your comments go to this, I just didn't
my
follow
comments are
along.
all there, so.
So we're talking about disproportionate to the surrounding area.
And I identified each building, I went through it, and I thought that even on building A, where they talk about the setback, well, they have the setback on the 4th story, which is closer to a setback on a a fifth story because they've added an extra 10 feet on the lower level. So I said, if you're gonna have any setbacks, you gotta have it there at the third floor, so it looks like it's consistent with the rest of the building as an area.
Jerry, with your permission, we were looking into incorporating those notes into the planning board report itself, because I thought it was a thoughtful way to look at the heights, and a thoughtful way to make some adjustments. So with your permission, we wanted to include that. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
You have my permission.
Thank you. I don't know.
So it went farther than I emailed.
I don't know. I was going to make the final cut, but I think,
And do we want
with the revisions committee looking at it? But I do want to put that in.
Yeah, put it in both, yeah.
We should put in both. We should put in both. But I think it helps highlight important aspects of the planning board report that we were a little deficient on in terms of explaining where heights should be adjusted.
And this is for building A only, or is this?
No, Jerry mentions goes through each one.
A, B, and D.
A, D, and E?
Yeah.
Okay.
A, B, D, and E.
A, B, D, and E.
We're suggesting eliminating C altogether.
Yeah.
And then I did have specific plan modifications.
Right, what-
You know, just,
So what, are they different from, what's page 15? Okay.
well, that's part of the same one that Jason had modified, but I wanted to emphasize that.
So taking my comment and adding to the end of that,
Yeah,
while
they're both,
preserving
the two of them
historic
together
character, yeah.
essentially cover the same thing.
All right.
But it's an expansion of what currently exists.
Right, that's important. And then 16, page 16, this is number 2.
I thought it just needed to be reset there to emphasize it.
That's an additional bullet point.
Yeah.
And then page 30, this is the retractable bollards.
Yeah, and I did speak to Ira afterwards, because I was talking about retractable, so you can use, essentially make safe the whole area.
Right.
So I
Right.
see, I think Jason has the same
Comment.
on that. So we've covered that.
And then we go to the features and the structures that shall be preserved, and the dome is one that should be preserved. All right. And then page 36, 4. Is that an additional sentence that you're?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a new bullet point.
Okay. And then on 26, your next one, table 1, reduce maximum height. So that's no longer applicable, right? Because we're,
We're gonna go higher but
Right.
narrower.
right.
Should we put in some kind of
It's
alternative?
okay, if you're gonna reduce the base.
But should we consider an alternative solution if the council responds, no, we think there's sufficient open space and the supermarket is a compelling reason to grant the additional bulk? Like, is there something that we should do as an alternative as
I mean,
well?
I think
Or
that
does
is
that dilute?
that is the alternative,
Yeah.
to let them go higher but narrower. If they don't want to do that, all right, then just eliminate building
They have
C
to go
and do nothing
underground.
else.
And go
You know,
under.
Jason had a good
Yeah.
suggestion too, that building A could move, east?
East, yeah.
A little bit to
Yes,
compensate for
that's-
some of
Right.
of C.
Right, to take off,
Take some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
take some of that off. Yeah.
But I mean,
And in fact, you could take that much
Yep,
and
and just
put it
put it
there,
right
and
there.
you're only
Yeah.
talking, and
Yeah.
adjust some other square footage.
That's a great point. And then you have that whole plaza. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
Have we gone over all of our comments? I think so.
I believe so.
Tom?
I don't think I have anything new. I think you covered everything that was in my memo.
Except about the train, the engine.
That was in my last paragraph. So the design and placement of the new buildings, the loss of context of the platforms, especially separating them from the main station, as well as rendering showing a passenger rail car in the middle of the plaza with bits of railroad track. A ridiculous notion, shows the author of the plan neither understand nor appreciate the historical significance of the site, its roles in the development of Montclair, and the historical and architectural significance of the Montclair Town Center Historic District.
Well, where can it be placed?
A train? A train shouldn't be included.
Know where that comment should be placed?
Well, where, is it too strong? That's.
It probably is.
It's too strong for us, for our submission to the planning board. It's in the public record now, so, but I think, if they bought the train, that might be good for the playground, for the, you know, it might contextualize, the new open space between buildings D and E and, you know, provide something for the kids, but.
And your planning
I mean,
board.
they could put it in their lobby.
That too, that too.
And your planning board member, one of your members said he used to play on a train when he was growing up.
Yes,
Remember that?
Mr. Neiman, yep.
Yep.
Jacob did, yeah.
Okay, so how do we phrase this for our memo? Because I think it's a little bit, while I agree with Tom, I think it's a little bit too strong.
Can we just slash the, you know, maybe it's a ridiculous notion part, because the rest of it seems pretty.
Yeah, just
pretty.
All right, okay.
eliminate that part. The rest of it's fine.
I have a question, though. Is there any public money being used for this project?
I don't know.
I doubt it.
I don't
Because
know.
that would change everything. That
Is
would
that
change
right?
everything. It would have to go before Sites Council then.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any public money being used, but that's interesting.
How
No,
about
I think it's the
how about a-
opposite.
It's all-
We're giving them all this bulk so that they can pay for a grocery store and all these parks.
Yeah.
How about any pilot proposed?
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sure they'll get
that's-
a pilot.
It's a pilot, it's redevelopments, you're marked for
If
redevelopment.
I had a
It's
good
all of
attorney,
the-
he could probably argue that that's public money.
Huh.
I'm not sure.
I'm not an attorney, though.
No, I
I'm
think
not sure if you.
I think someone tried to make that argument.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
it's-
I have a question. So we want to incorporate Tom's last paragraph in whole minus that one
Just that
phrase.
one phrase.
Do we want to say anything specifically about
The
the use
placement.
of that train car?
Where it should be placed?
Like use,
But
could
shouldn't
be
that
used
be up
as
to the
like an,
design, shouldn't the architect take that and create a, I mean, that's.
Well, because it was.
but should we say that it not
Was
be
that-
included in this location?
was that-
The tracks,
Yeah.
the track segments and
Yeah.
this be eliminated from the design?
Was that in the plan itself, or was it just in some of the renderings?
That's true. I think.
It was in a rendering.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
maybe-
that would be
yeah,
a
just put
site
in the comment,
plan.
Like, it's a
Yeah,
bad
maybe
idea.
it's too
don't-
specific.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay, the one thing that the state is now, is now addressing or focusing on is the, on page 26 and 28, I forgot what they call it, but it's the importance of the railroad and the development of the state. And if it's important to the state, it's certainly central to the location here, which is to your point, Tom. And I think that's really important that when we talk about the dominance of rail, which it talks about the unchallenged dominant transportation technology and gave New Jersey a railroad landscape, which I think is really interesting. And that really comes to play with the Label Street nomination, because even though it's a different line, it brought goods, it brought workers, it took goods out. So the railroad is a very prominent, important, I mean, we really need to, focus on that as this should be the focus of it. And
It was an economic driver, it was a
Right.
driver of the arts, bringing in,
and honestly,
George Innes and his friends, and, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and what Preservation New Jersey said in their letter is that an architect using creative, adaptive reuse could really make a great site from this. even with the, I know Montclair just got money from the historic tourism. I mean, this would be a perfect center for historic tourism.
It seems like preservation was an afterthought.
Well, I don't think it was any thought. I mean, there wasn't mentioned at all. I mean, it was, it was barely mentioned.
Well, it was discussed, but I think the planning board recognized that we would be having a more fulsome discussion about it. And,
Right.
we're waiting for our comments. Yeah.
All right, so any other comments? It's 20 after 11, we should,
Just I was just going to ask if we have a sense of how long it might take to put together a report. I just want to have an opportunity to discuss it with the planning
well,
board.
we're supposed to have it together by next Thursday.
Yeah, because we want to vote on it on Thursday, so a
Okay.
week from today.
That's right.
So
Of course.
I mean, I could probably have something, me and you could probably have something done early next week, like Monday, end of
I
day
would say,
Monday.
yeah, the end of day Monday.
To give everybody time to read it over, so that
And
we
make
can make.
changes,
Thanks,
because
Dan, yeah.
you really need
Yeah,
to.
because we can adopt it, a resolution with amendments to the report, and then we can make those amendments and forward it to the planning board without having to vote on it again.
We can't, I don't think we have another chance to do it again.
We won't have time anyway,
It's a
so.
time crunch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, procedurally, I think we've got a good starting point with the
The
last
prior,
resolution.
right.
So basically just taking that template.
That's exactly what I
We
thought.
have the comments here that we all agree on and just plugging it in, I think just bullet point style.
Sure.
So that when we review it, it really is just, is this consistent, is this accurate with what we discussed, rather than trying to change things stylistically.
Mhm.
You know, I don't think we need to make it a compelling narrative. It just has to have our ideas and suggestions.
Right. Because I wasn't here last time, so the report is actually a resolution.
Yep.
Okay, so
Are
I'll
we-
find the one from 2017 to use as a template.
Yeah, I have it right here. I'll send it to you. I
Well, I
thought I sent it.
probably have the Word version saved somewhere, so.
Right.
Are we sure we don't, but I think we need to express, to the chair's point, how important this site is. And I agree about the bullet points, but,
Well, that would, yeah, that would be in the.
but here, my
whereas
only
clause.
concern is how much are people going to read? And I don't know, I want to make sure that we have in this document that
The
I know
resolution.
everyone's going to read. Perhaps we can somehow distill the importance of this. It doesn't have to be.
I don't know.
No?
Well, I don't know if that's going to be possible, because
Yeah.
it's, it's whereas.
Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, we could say, whereas this is the most important historic site in
Yes, I
Montclair.
think we need to add something like that. Okay.
We can certainly say that in the very beginning.
And we have to
Oh,
note.
wait.
Well, I mean, I think Tom's report, I think we take some of that text and put it into the whereas clauses, because.
Right.
Make sure we note all the
Which
historic
part
designations, all the-
specifically?
Third paragraph, maybe? Or fourth paragraph?
Fourth, the Lackawanna train station in downtown Montclair is
Yeah.
is significant.
The
I think
whole
that's-
fourth paragraph?
The whole fourth paragraph.
Right, because you talk about the building and the community, relationship with the communities they serve.
The expansion.
Right.
Okay.
We can look at that, and then, depending on what goes in the resolution. Are you thinking of that being a separate letter to the planning board, or are you thinking of putting that
So
in the?
that's a good question. I'm trying to think how,
Because we also wrote last time we also wrote a letter that was more a narrative to the planning board.
so there is, a section in our report, the planning board report to the council that discusses the historic element of the master plan. It would be helpful to, I guess, have input on that from the board, but from the commission. But are we suggesting, so can you just share, what are we thinking of sending then? Is it just the resolution? Are we thinking of adding addendums to it, like Tom's report in whole? And so how are we envisioning, how are you envisioning?
My thought, I think let's take some elements of Tom's report, put it into the whereas clauses of the resolution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have our bullet point suggestions, and I think after that resolution's done.
Yeah.
We can workshop, like, a page, page and a half narrative.
That would be
we can
excellent.
give you to read
Okay.
into the record.
That would be outstanding. And then we can include that with the planning board report. Okay.
Yeah, I think paragraph 3 and 4, because
Yeah.
3 talks about it being listed on the state national register, and,
Yeah.
yeah,
And the last paragraph,
right.
See, because this is what the sample is. From 20, I think,
Right.
2018, 2017? 2017. So it should follow along those lines, but individualized to the current plan.
Yeah.
All right, so 10 o'clock next Thursday, 10 o'clock, virtual meeting. Tommy, and Tommy has sent the web link to the Zoom link, or whatever you call it, web link to everybody.
And if I think to, I'll send it again the morning
Right.
of, just so
And then
everyone has it.
Tom, I don't think Tom doesn't have to be on that
Yeah,
meeting.
ideally, it should just be a motion, vote, done.
Right. Okay. All right. so-
Right, well, maybe discussion of amendments.
You're gonna have the
Like,
report.
changes to
You're
it
gonna have the
bef-
report before that, so we can
Yeah.
review.
We're
it.
hoping to have it by Monday.
Yeah, if we have
Monday,
the
okay,
report
great.
before, if we need to redline everything, we can just redline it and send it to Tommy. And if it's something that requires discussion, we could have the discussion at the meeting, but it really should just be like minor stylistic changes at this point.
Mhm.
Does
And
that
when-
include does that include a whereas the redevelopment plan does not conform to the master plan the historic guidelines, preservation guidelines?
Element of the master plan.
Yes,
Yeah.
for XYZ reasons.
Yes.
Okay, I thought so.
Right.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think of it, but it's in here. I thought it was in here somewhere, but
I just want to make sure that we explain what elements don't conform.
All right, so all that work, considering all this work is to be done for next Thursday, why don't we scrap the goals and objectives for next year to the February meeting?
You sure?
And do we, maybe in the February
Yeah.
meeting also, we can talk about committees, who's on what
Yes, I
committee?
meant to mention that, if everybody wants to be on the same committee. All right, it's almost 11:30. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All right.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, see everybody Thursday and then in February. Thank you.